Okay, guys, we are getting ready to start here. If council members could turn your videos on, that would be great. Looks like we've got a couple more joining here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. There's Phil. All righty. Okay, we have enough to get started.
We've got an echo.
My sound's off.
Okay. I have it on.
Hello? All right, echo is off. All right, thanks for your patience, everybody. All right, let me check. I'm gonna do a quick, whoa. What's going on? Check. Try this again. Can the audience hear us? Wave your hand. Okay. All right. Sorry for the delay, guys. Let's get that in here. We'll do a quick roll call of council members. Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy.
Present.
Councilmember Severs.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Follier.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia. Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Langford. I see him trying to join. We will come back. And Councilmember Dunn, I see you. All right. So welcome to our Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 council workshop. Governor Inslee's Order 20-28-152 regarding the OPMA remains in effect. It requires public meetings and hearings to be held remotely with the option of also holding an in-person component to a public meeting or hearing if certain conditions are met. At the present time, the City of Liberty Lake has determined not to hold an in-person component to a public meeting or hearing. Go back and check on my council members here. We have Councilmember Garcia. I know she was planning on being here, so we'll check back. And Councilmember Langford, there you are.
Present.
There you go. All right, so we have all present with the exception of Councilmember Garcia. Okay, so the subject of our workshop tonight is the 2022 to 2027 Capital Facilities Plan, and I will turn it over to Lisa as soon as I check one more. No, go ahead, Lisa. You're all set.
Next slide, please. So I'm just going to very briefly start this off. The point of this workshop is really to get feedback from you, City Council, on what we have submitted. In terms of process and timeline for the adoption of the CFP, our workshops can continue through November 16th, and with changes made through a motion and approval by the entire council, and we can make those amendments to what actually gets published for the SEPA and the public hearing. The SEPA and public hearing for the proposed CFP gets published on November 22nd, and we do have the public hearing, the first read ordinance on December 7th with the second read on December 21st. And as you know, the CFP needs to follow along the budget process because what's listed in the 2022 CFP is actually incorporated into the 2022 budget. So next slide, please. So I did send out an updated CFP this afternoon. There were a few changes that were necessary to make sure that this was aligned with the final budget documents that the mayor is going to be presenting later. There's a couple of things that I wanted to point out to you that have changed. So Trailhead Renovations, we have 400,000 in this year's budget with the and I had split the funds over 2022 and 2023 originally. We've now really consolidated that, and the CFP reflects fully loaded 8 million in 2022. Also, the Trailhead asset management funding has been zeroed out from 2022 through 2027, given funding for the new clubhouse is going to address those asset management projects that had been identified. We did move the city hall parking lot renovations to 2023 and Kramer overpass. So we had a placeholder there for the funding in the capital facility plan. We're proposing 1,722,800, which is the remaining balance of that, the first $6 million that we had a firm commitment for. So that's what we have left. So we're putting that in 2022. Any cost overruns wouldn't be addressed until project closeout. So we will have a better projection for 2023. Actually, we're expecting a pretty decent projection from WashDOT next month. So we will update the CFP then. In terms of project development under transportation, we're proposing 100,000 in 2022, but no funding in future years. The intent of that particular fund is to maintain a balance of 100,000 to allow design for unanticipated maintenance projects. And then if you draw down funds, we'll propose to replenish it annually. But so that's intended to be sort of a contingency fund for roadways that blow up, as we've seen happen with Kramer and we've seen happen with Mission Avenue, et cetera. Also, the pedestrian crossing allocation. So we originally had 5 crossings spread, or in 2022, we're now proposing funding for a total of 6 crossings spread out over 2 years. And 2022 and 2023, so there's 180,000 in each year. And under technology, we've proposed $80,000 be added for network security in 2022 and 250,000 added for cameras. We believe that both of those costs are potentially ARP eligible, but they're necessary from a security standpoint. Next slide, please.
Question?
Yes.
Go, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Lisa, thanks. Could you go back to that first screen? On Kramer Overpass, 1,700,000 remaining on the 6 million on it. Do we feel that we're in line with staying within the 6 million? I know that Katie had mentioned we're probably, well, we're not in line because we're probably 100,000 over. Do we feel that we're going to be fairly close with that?
So that's Katie's, you got the best information available, but when we talked to WashDOT at our meeting last month, they said that they should have a pretty good estimate of what's left on Barker Road. They know what the bid price is for Kramer, and we're pretty wrapped up with the Harvard Road Bridge overpass also, or bridge widening also. So they should be able to give us a pretty solid number. Things happen during construction, and so we don't know, and things could happen to our benefit, but more often you find things in the field that have the potential to create a cost increase. So we don't know until the end of the project, but we will have a number in our CFP that's based upon WashDOT's projection of where we're going to be at, that we should be getting a little bit later this month.
Okay.
Lisa,
All right,
I'll jump in.
thank
And
you.
do you need more information, Mike?
No, that's fine on that. Now there's another council member has an additional question. I do have a follow-up question on the Kramer Road overpass, the $6 million that we've kind of spent so far. One thing we didn't anticipate was $500,000 that we ended up paying for that corner section there. So we have Kramer's Parkway overpass would have a straight shot. Is that $500,000, is that in that $6 million commitment?
Yes, it is.
Lisa, let me answer that question, because it is important that the right-of-way for the Kramer Road project was actually estimated much higher than $500,000. Because when WashDOT put their budget together many years ago, the $26.9 million had several $1,000,000 for right-of-way acquisition. And we were able to receive a donation from Centennial. So really the original budget anticipated much more than the $500,000 spent on that corner.
Thank you for bringing that up. As you were speaking, I do recall that. Thank you for that information.
Real quick, Lisa, before you go on, Kelsey, if you could do me a favor and note, Councilmember Garcia joined several minutes ago. I don't want to leave her out.
Any other questions on this slide?
Question.
Okay. Councilmember Langford.
Thank you, Mayor. Lisa, on reference to the Trailhead Renovations front-loaded in 22, what is the benefit of doing it that way?
Well, so my understanding is that that we'll have the contract. We will likely have to bond for the money all at once, unless, of course, we do some bridge financing, and there's always closing costs associated with that. So that's a question, what makes the most sense? What I was advised was that the likelihood is that we're going to go out to bond for the full amount up front rather than doing a bridge loan. So again, that's my understanding. And Kyle, maybe you can jump in and if you have additional information.
Just to concur with what you said, yeah.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Any other questions?
Councilmember Dunn.
Lisa, to look at the summaries that you provided, excellent, and I agree, concur with all the observations. Are there any capital facilities projects you can point to in 2022 which would improve the quality of our hybrid council meetings? No is a good answer here. If you don't,
I believe that we have addressed technology from a standpoint of what we need from a security perspective. I don't believe that we have addressed anything related to the technology associated with the hybrid meetings, but my understanding is that may be something that we can use ARP dollars for, but decisions haven't been made yet as to how those dollars would be spent.
And most likely those dollars would rise to the amount of capital facilities.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, I was just noting that most likely the cost associated with that would not rise to the level of capital facilities project. It would be in much smaller amount.
And that would appear somewhere in the 2022 budget.
I will find that line item for you and let you know.
Okay, because I mean, just as a point of observation, our workshop was delayed today related to the inability to correct audio. And right now, I think what you had said into the microphone was not heard by most of the audience because of, hanging a microphone over a speakerphone is just not working very well for us. That's just a suggestion. I look forward to us trying to invest to, 20 months into COVID, making sure we get the hybrid meeting thing down. So, thanks.
Agreed. Okay, I don't see any other hands, Lisa. Go ahead.
Okay, next slide, please. So I did also provide you with kind of an executive summary related to principally focused on the 2022 spending. And so here's just kind of a summary chart. We've got a little over 1.7 million for Kramer Parkway overpass and roadway extension, the $8 million for Trailhead Clubhouse, we've proposed, and this is based upon the engineer's most current cost estimate, given current construction costs, 1.08 million to construct the Public Works building and to do the final site improvements. We have 100,000 for library facility upgrades, 34,000 for public art as requested by the Parks and Arts Commission. We have several grant-funded infrastructure projects, including Kramer Parkway, partial reconstruction, the technology, and the stormwater master plan. The one point that I would make is Kramer Parkway. We won't really know if the grant is approved until November. In terms of traffic operational improvements, we have several projects. We'll be completing Legacy Ridge, Country Vista Signal. In fact, the bids are going to be opened at the end of this week, and we expect to bring back a contract to you for approval at your first meeting in November. And we also have the Country Vista, basically west of Liberty Lake Road, the plans for the pavement and the redesign for operational improvements, the medians, et cetera. We have requested funding for the design for that project in 2022 with the hope that we could use that specific design and cost estimate to really go after some grant funding for that project. Also we have we've requested 40,000 for the design of some intersection improvements at Appleway and Country Vista Boulevard, and a solar powered flashing speed limit signs. Also, we bumped the annual street maintenance allocation from 50,000 a year to 100,000 a year. What we've seen is when we have repair projects, they tend to run more in the 50,000. I don't think that had changed for a number of years, and really, the 50,000 is not really cutting it. When we have a project like Mission or the repair that we had to do on Kramer Parkway this year, both of those ran around 100,000, and so it seems like a good number to put in there. Again, if we don't need it, we won't use it. Again, I talked about this a little bit, the idea of the project development for streets, and that's we just want to have a fund that if the roadway blows up and we have to get the design done so we can redo it in the spring, that we have money budgeted there. And the intent would be, this is kind of a contingency fund. If we don't use it, it'll roll into the next year. If we have to use some of it, we'll replenish in the following budget. Also, we've got trails and pedestrian pathways. We have a 380,000 proposed for this year. Asset management for parks and public facilities is a little over 600,000, and we have nearly 500,000 for essential equipment, and that's both new and replacement equipment. And that does include both electronic equipment as well as vehicles and et cetera. Any questions before I go on to the next slide?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Lisa, on the asset management for parks and public facilities, can you give me just a Reader's Digest of what's anticipated for 613,000?
I'm gonna
I forgot.
I'm gonna defer to Jen on that.
Okay.
Thank you. So there's a summary that will be included in the budget explaining the detail work of that total number, but it includes City Hall building improvements. And actually, when I say City Hall, I mean the entire site. So that's the little house, the maintenance shop, and the building and the site. Same with PD and library. There were just some projects that came due on the software that some items have lifed out. And so those projects are being recommended for renovation / repair / replacement. Again, the details of those items, it's things like windows, it's things like exterior woodwork that is starting to rot, paint, roofs, that kind of thing.
Okay, great. One other question, if I may. Up here on the Trailhead Clubhouse driving range and parking, it might be a little premature on this question. Do we have any estimates of its soft costs of the $8.4 million? Probably a little premature for that question.
So Katie and I have talked about this, and I believe that between the project management, the design and permitting, and the legal services, we're probably looking at about 1.4 million. Is that fair, Katie?
Yeah, so Lisa, our consultant put together a complete spreadsheet of all the costs associated with the project and the building itself. And I don't want to try to quote it because I'd be wrong. I'd have to pull it out of a file to give you the exact number. So why don't we take the budget that our consultant put together? Well, I'll scan it and send it to the council tomorrow. But when you take the soft costs out and the actual hard cost construction dollars is a little bit over 6 million, like Lisa said, but I'll get you the preliminary budget.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Anybody else have any questions before Lisa goes on? I don't see any. Go ahead, Lisa.
Next slide, please. So here's just a snapshot of where you're investing your capital, or where we're proposing for you to invest your capital in 2022. The bulk of it is in parks and public facilities, and obviously that has to do with the investment in Trailhead as well as the investment in the public works yard. Transportation, we're looking at 4.4, almost 4.5 million. Which is 29% of the budget of the capital projects. Trails and pedestrian paths represent 3%, while equipment and technology represents 5%. And with that, I turn it over to all of you for your questions, comments, feedback.
We want to, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Lisa, could you go back to that pie chart again?
Todd? Thank you.
Yeah, the 63% equipment and technology is going to show in our budget and stuff a breakdown of the 829 of how much is estimated for equipment, how much is estimated for technology.
Yes, and actually you can also see it in the capital facilities spreadsheet. And again, I want to remind you that I apologize, we didn't have the time to put this in the final format, but we will be working on the final format, and you will be getting that in the hopefully not too distant future, where we have a summary for each section. We have the 6-year plan for that particular project, and then we have the project descriptions behind it. So it will be a lot easier for you to read at this point. It's still been very much a work in progress, so my apologies on that, but the detail is in the spreadsheet.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I didn't know if we want to take this opportunity to start going through the detail that is in the latest update that Lisa sent. At least I don't know if it is in our packet, but I believe we had an update since then, but I didn't know if you had that ready to take a look at, Lisa, or not.
So I did send it to Todd to put on the screen, but really it's the intent was just to be able to scroll to where people were asking questions. So.
So I'm going to turn it over, obviously, to the council for questions at this point, or I know what we've done in the past. We've obviously made this part of our budget workshops, but we'll be starting on the 4th, unless there's something in particular you guys want to tackle now. I know it's kind of an eye chart. Is there any particular line items? There you go. Councilmember Follier.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions, I guess. My first one is, and I believe I asked this, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't mind just asking me to turn you down.
We're getting a lot of echo here in the hall.
Hello, 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 hello. And I've asked this, I think last time we had our budget talks in relationship to capital facilities. Any of these items that we have listed that have no funding, can we move those down to the bottom section as we have with other items up for discussion?
Lisa?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry, I pushed the wrong button over here. Can you repeat your question? No, I apologize.
Sure. My question is, we have just a few items that are really unfunded projects, and I'm just wondering if we can move those down to the bottom section of the matrix, along with all the other unfunded projects.
So what's going to end up happening when I reformat this is you're going to have Parks and Public Facilities is going to be a chapter. So those associated with that are going to be at the bottom of that list. And transportation will be, it's a chapter. And so you'll have the unfunded transportation projects there, so on and so forth. And so I haven't done that with this because this is still just a working draft.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Another question, if I can, Mayor? Thank you. I'm assuming that we are going to be getting budget binders similar to last year.
They will be hand delivered tomorrow.
So I would ask, since I don't visit the city hall on a regular basis like Kennedy does, that I get an email when that's available. And matter of fact, I don't go there that often. If there's any important mail, and it's all important, if I could get a little heads up that I have mail. Remember AOL, you have mail? That would be great.
Got you covered.
And I have one last one, if I can.
Of course.
So there's a few items on our proposed capital investments plan here in the summary. And I guess wondering when the council discussed adding these to the matrix, specifically the library facility upgrades and the Country Vista operational improvements design, or is that?
Those are two separate questions. The Country Vista operational design, it was actually reflected for the design for 2022 in the adopted transportation improvement program that you adopted back in June. As for the library, the 100,000 for the library, what was requested by the library board. And again, because this is a working draft, we put the document together. It's not adopted. It is a draft. We will be developing the final proposed project. If there are things on this that council would like to see removed, all you need to do is make a motion and vote on it and give me direction as a body.
Thank you.
That's all part of the process. I assume there will be lots of discussion, additions, deletions, movement on this document. Councilmember Kurtz.
My question, and maybe it's for a different workshop, but I know that last year we had a number of extra meetings, and I'm seeing November creep ever closer to us and know that we have a deadline to get this done. Are we scheduling any sort of extra special meetings or whatnot to get those on our calendars now?
We had talked about reserving our 6 o'clock workshops between now and the end of the year for this, and then if we need to add a separate special meeting, we can. I think after we have our first one on November 6th, we'll probably have a better idea of how fast or slowly we'll be getting through it.
November 4th or November 6th?
4th.
Okay. Thank you.
You don't want to come in on Saturday.
Not my daughter's birthday.
Yeah, we'll keep a close eye on the timing for all of that. Anybody else? Councilmember Garcia, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the prompting from the staff. Lisa, thank you. I would like to make a motion, and that motion is to remove all unfunded projects to a separate workshop, time to be determined or date to be determined, so that we may discuss thoroughly each of those items, whether we need to bring them back to the table for engagement or take them out completely. We've kicked the can down the road for a number of years. And unless we are proactive enough to do something now so that we can revisit all of them separate and apart from the budget here, from the capital facilities plan items that are allotted for, I would propose that we remove those at this time for a later workshop in the future. So the motion is to remove all unfunded projects to a later workshop so that we can determine if those projects will ever move forward.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Councilmember Kurt and then Councilmember Dunn.
I'm curious if we can kind of, I'm looking on an iPad and I can't see what some of those projects are with what's on the screen. Can someone kind of just give a high level, some examples of the unfunded projects?
Lisa, can you run down them real quick?
I am looking, yes.
And it should all be in your packet as well, everybody.
Yes, and I'm looking at the screen that Todd
Fallen
had.
Heroes Circuit Course is one. Community Gardens is at Orchard Park is another one. River District Community Message Board is a third one.
Mayor, can I help her?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
There's a couple others, the Rocky Hill Park Shade Structure, Town Square Master Plan. Did you say Community Gardens, Lisa?
I did say Community Gardens, yeah. Yeah,
That gives me some idea. Thank you, Phil. Madam Mayor, may I ask one more question? I think that we sort of had prioritized a lot of these in our matrix, but we haven't come back to discuss that. So in regard to the motion, I would like to discuss the matrix and the prioritization that we did whenever, I don't know if we have that on the agenda. I think we do at some point, don't we?
That's all part of the budget process.
Okay, so we'll be discussing it. It's sort of on the agenda upcoming through the process.
I have Councilmember Dunn, then Councilmember Severs, then Councilmember Garcia.
I'm at.
Hey, quick reflection. Fallen Heroes Circuit Course, Lisa, for reference was, does that have a year on it? In this plan, a year?
Does it have a year? I actually believe that it does not.
Does not.
It does
And River
not.
District Community Messaging, does that have a year proposed?
It does not. None of these. So those are ones that were on the list that aren't funded within this time frame. That, but again, they could be, funding could be added for those projects if it was the desire of City Council in future years or in the current year, I suppose. Right now, they're not included in the mayor's budget, but no, these unfunded projects are not identified for any particular year. And in many cases, in some cases, we have a ballpark cost estimate, but not for all of them. And again, I'm looking at the bottom of the CFP. In addition to the couple that are up at the top, we have parking lot, Rocky Hill parking lot expansion, Rocky Hill splash pad, the community pool, the community/senior center, park expansion for Town Square, dog park, expand City Hall meeting room into covered porch, golf cart charging stations at city facilities, and Liberty Lake ball field improvements. And none of those have either a year or a dollar amount associated with them.
Lisa, just to help me recount my perception of the intentions of a capital facilities plan. It's not a budget, it's a plan. We use this as a planning document to try and identify.
Dan, you cut out.
Dan, you
We
cut.
lost your audio.
Thanks. Is this hearing okay?
Yes.
Okay. I started to explore that a planning document by nature, not a budget, a planning document is intended to try to reflect on objectives and to some extent priorities. And so by nature, a planning and document isn't necessarily for the assertion of a cost insofar as projecting forward. I just want to get your perception, Lisa, of the utility of a capital facilities plan in the context of our documents for the city.
So I think it's like super important. It gives us an opportunity, both from a workload planning perspective as well as from a budgeting perspective. I think it's critical that we prioritize the different projects relative to the funding sources available, as well as to our staff, our staffing availability. One of the things I will say that's valuable is for those projects that may not have risen to the top, to have kind of an unfunded projects list that are kind of your wish list of things that don't really rise to the top of the list just yet, but are something that you may want to consider in the future. And if you like SRTC, when they do our metropolitan transportation plan, is actually a requirement of the Federal Transportation Administration with regard to these MTPs. But so in addition to, it has to be a fiscally constrained budget, but then almost inevitably there's projects that you want to do that you don't have funding for. And those go into what they call an illustrative projects list. There are other projects that may be done if funding becomes available, or they may be projects that are considered in a future MTP when they have maybe risen to the top of the priority list. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's super helpful. So in fact, it sounds like having an unfunded project on a capital facilities plan is actually a requirement in order to apply for a grant.
It is, that is true. It needs to be on your capital facilities plan, and certainly absolutely on from a transportation perspective. That's 100% correct.
So tomorrow, I'm just going to wax a model. Tomorrow, this foundation suddenly announces a grant for dog parks. And the fact that we have a dog park on our capital facilities plan would allow us to immediately apply for that grant. Does that sound right?
Yes, with some caveats. Okay. Some caveats. The caveats are still that you still have to consider available resources, both in terms of matching funds and also in terms of staff resources.
Yeah. So in that regard, I can't support removing or shifting items that are unfunded on our capital facilities plan to preserve the city's ability to act if and when funding became available. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, Councilmember Severs and Councilmember Garcia.
In a similar light, I guess I would just share that I think there's merit and value to keeping projects that are not yet funded on this list, and funded or timelined on the list. I think it gives opportunity to council or future councils to continue to prioritize these projects, and if they choose not to prioritize the project, they should kick it off the list based on the specific project, not based on whether or not the project has been timelined or funded. So I just I would just share that I think it would be a bad decision for grant purposes or for just for the contract of the list that to kick off all projects that are not funded. And for that reason, I'd say we should not pass this forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions before I make a statement. Lisa, although you have stated that it is true that the items, as Member Dunn has declared, the items being on the capital facilities plan would make us readily available to perhaps approve an item that already becomes funded. My motion, however, is in line with removing those that are unfunded, as the mayor has reported that we are still in budget talks, and tonight is not the night we are going to approve the capital facilities plan. Is that correct, firstly?
Absolutely. You will not actually be approving it until the end of December. We won't have a final document for you to even act on until late November.
Thank you. The next statement I'd like to make, please, Madam Mayor, if I can continue.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Is that, as also has been stated, it will, having this on the capital facilities plan after the items have been vetted so that we remove those that we do not intend to bring forward at any date in the next 2 to 5 years, remove those, and then bring back to the table after the workshop on deciding which ones are prudent and which ones would provide the best use of our resources, back to the table prior to our voting to approve the capital facilities plan, which would preserve the city's ability to act. Is that correct, Ms. Keyes?
If I understood what you said, I believe that is correct. So what I heard you say was essentially that that council would keep them all on there until they had a workshop, decide which ones they don't ever want to fund and remove those, and the others that are aspirational but not yet funded, keep them on there. Was that accurate?
That's absolutely correct. And therefore, the motion was so that we would have the ability to come together again and really assess and align what the future is, than to continue to kick the can. This can has been kicked prior to me becoming council member, on and on and on. We've all talked about how often these unfunded things show up with less discussion. And while I do want dog parks, I do want to be able to discuss that we have a number of parks where we can resource areas within each park in order to come to a conclusion on how many parks we may need. One park may not be enough. And therefore, I would like my motion to stand, up or down vote from the council. And the motion would be, again, to move all unfunded items to a workshop or later date for discussion, in order that we may, as Member Dunn alluded to, we may preserve the city's ability to act should an item come to fruition that we have the funding for. But at this time, to remove them so we can have further discussion on those items alone. Only those unfunded items will go to the workshop so we could vet them out.
So if there are no other questions or discussion, I will go ahead and call for that vote. So go ahead, Councilman Dunn.
Sorry.
Before I do that. Sure.
Point of order. Does the motion
Yeah.
have any impact on the CFP as it's being depicted in the agenda tonight?
It does not. It does not, because
Okay.
this is still just a working
Okay.
draft.
Okay.
All right, so if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. So those in favor of moving the unfunded line items from this current CFP draft to a separate workshop for discussion, please say aye.
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 Okay, I'll go ahead and say, any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so it looks like I have Councilmembers Dunn and Councilmember Kurtz, nay, and the rest of you, yay. Is that correct? I was hearing different. Okay. All right, so the yays have it, so we will move we will schedule a separate workshop on those unfunded projects. Okay. Anybody else have Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. I'd like to ask the question now, is it because I believe that has created a priority for us, and what meeting in the future will we have that? Because I could see moving ahead on that is certainly going to affect what we'll have on the capital facilities.
Can we take a note on that when we're going through the future, at the end of the 7 o'clock when we're going through the future meetings?
Very good.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
I was just going to say that I think that even that agenda topic alone will be longer than our usual workshop time allows. So I just want to make sure that whenever we do have that on the agenda, it's a longer meeting, because I think that we'll have a good discussion.
Noted. Okay. Well, if there are no further questions on the CSP draft that we have in front of us, we'll go ahead and take a recess for about 15 minutes. So I just will note, we did confirm that while the reason we had been being kicked off the audio was a provider issue, we're about 90% sure that's been fixed. So we're actually going to, everybody can stay on the meeting. We're going to hang up on our end and dial back in. To better our chances of the audio not dropping around what is about 8:15 or so. It's been dropping before. So we'll see everybody in about 15 minutes.
There you go.
Just gonna hang it. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Get situated. Different color pen. Get everybody on video. I'm sure I'm not leaving me. Okay. All right, we have 29 and 60 seconds. Okay. All right. It is 7 p.m. and flip through my shot here, make sure I've got everybody moved to the top so I can see them. All right, everybody, welcome to our Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 City Council meeting being held remotely. Governor Inslee's Order 20-28-152 regarding the OPMA remains in effect. It requires public meetings and hearings to be held remotely, with the option of also holding an in-person component to a public meeting or hearing if certain conditions are met. At the present time, the City of Liberty Lake has determined not to hold an in-person component to a public meeting or hearing. So we'll go ahead and do some rise, please, and join me in the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, thanks for bringing us together today. Guide us as we make it through our strenuous budget process. Guide us so that we understand what we're discussing, how the numbers lay out, that we have good discussion and respectful discussion as we make our way through this process over the next 8 to 10 weeks. We are fortunate as a city to have come through this pandemic fairly well, and just be with our council members as they continue to be good stewards of our community's money and to take care of what we have and what our community needs. Thank you very much for bringing out all of our visitors with us today on video. Looks like we have a record number. Thank you for having our citizens be engaged, and please be with those visitors as they may follow along and not feel afraid to speak up if they have a comment or a question. In your name, amen.
Very good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Good prayer, Chris.
Call the meeting to order, and we will start with a quick roll call here. Make sure everybody's on. We have Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy,
Present.
Councilmember Severs,
Present.
Councilmember Follier,
Here.
Councilmember Garcia,
Present.
Councilmember Kurtz,
Present.
Councilmember Langford,
Present.
Councilmember Dunn.
Happy to be here.
Great. I'm going to do a quick sound check on, for some of our staff members, just to make sure we're not having any difficulty. I do see our city's legal counsel, Sean Bowles. Do we have you on? Just want to check your audio.
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you. City Administrator Katie Allen.
Present.
Okay, great. Operations and Maintenance Director Jen Camp.
I'm here.
Great. Finance Director Kyle Dixon.
Here.
Okay. Kelsey Hardy, City Clerk.
Present.
Thank you. Planning, Engineering, Building Services Director Lisa Key.
Present.
Great, thank you. And Library Director Jandy Humble.
Present.
Great, and I wasn't sure if Chief was joining, Chief Simmons is joining us or no, I do not see him. I don't believe he is scheduled for anything during the meeting. All right, thanks everybody. I just want to make sure we have everybody's audio set up before we move on. So we will go ahead and Mayor Pro Tem, you're on for agenda.
Thank you, Madam Madam Mayor.
I don't know what you're about to call me, but.
Well, so the distractions are, suddenly I heard a noise and our cleaning guy just went by the door, so different than we're at home. For the council's consideration, we have an addition for this evening and a change for the council to approve. I'll read those. One is to make a motion. I move that we amend the agenda to include authorizing the mayor to proceed with the quote received from Executech for IT-related security services. This item will be noted on the agenda as 10B6. Second item will be to make a motion to move the hearing on 9C, commercial broker service for restaurant and trailhead workshop, to be heard before 9A on the agenda. And I believe the purpose of that is that we have some representation there that would need to wade through a lot of other discussion.
Right. We have a second on those proposed changes.
Second.
Second.
And got a second from Councilmember Kurtz. Any discussion or questions on those proposed changes? Not seeing or hearing any. All in favor of moving 9C to before 9A and adding general business 10B6? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, then the amendments are approved. Move the amended agenda. You want to move the, Mayor Pro Tem, to move the amended agenda?
I'm sorry, I was reading ahead. Make a motion that we approve the amended agenda.
We have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Kurtz. I thought we were going to have a meeting there for a moment. With no second. All right, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, please say aye.
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 I love it.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved as amended. So now we move on to citizen comments. So this is a period for those visitors in our audience to take up to 3 minutes to make a comment during our citizen comment period. You do have, oh, my camera is turned off. I apologize. Thank you, Todd, for letting me know that. So you have up to 3 minutes to make a comment, and there will be a countdown timer. So if you'd like to make a comment during this period, please shoot a note over to our meeting manager, Todd Henderson. If you don't have anything during this period, there will be another time at the end of the meeting. So Todd, do we have anybody at this point looking to make a comment?
Yeah.
No? I'm not hearing or seeing anybody. One more chance. I'll flip through the video in case somebody's raising their hand. I don't see any. Okay. So we are moving on to announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. So I think a lot of what I'm going to say right now is already brought before the council during the workshop discussion. So this is the night that we typically, the mayor will read a letter to the city council and the residents introducing the proposed budget for 2022. So I will just preface it by saying, just imagine getting a phone call on two Sundays before the budget's due saying that your finance director is laid up. And I do want to say thank you to the entire staff and a big thank you to RJ Stevenson, who answered the call to help it in a pinch while Kyle was recovering. Kyle and the rest of the staff, Anne Marie and Katie, all the other directors had everything in really good shape. So thank you for all your input. So without further ado, City Council and Liberty Lake residents, 2021 has been a year of change. We started the year with a new mayor, a new police chief, a new council member, and then another new council member. Like so many other organizations during this time, we said goodbye to old friends as they retired, changed careers, and moved to be near family, and we welcomed new ones as we added positions to make operations at City Hall more efficient and to maintain the amazing level of service that our community expects and deserves. Despite ever-changing COVID guidance, our employees, council, and other numerous commissions and boards have been flexible, resilient, and committed to doing the absolute best job they can for this community. This year, we saw the dedication of the new Ridgeline High School and the expanded Harbor Road Bridge. We celebrated the openings and anniversaries of many businesses in Liberty Lake and broke ground on the much-anticipated Kramer Parkway overpass that will join the north and south sides of our city and improve the overall traffic operations around town. In the midst of this change, the city experienced record sales tax revenue approaching $4.8 million in 2021 and an overflow of commercial activity. We will start 2022 debt-free with more than $1.3 million in our research reserve fund and a general fund that exceeds what is required by ordinance by 350%. We are in an excellent financial shape, and I drafted this budget with no increase to property taxes for the first time since 2016. We are a growing community with ever-increasing needs to expand the depth and breadth of our staff to best serve our community in all activities. We have been stretched thin in the past, which leads to unintended errors, omissions, and inefficiencies. In 2022, we are investing in our employees with the addition of more full-time employees, including more police officers, a city planner, a facilities lead, a communications and engagement position, and additional training for our employees across the board. Our investments in this community will continue with convening the city's first ever Community Engagement Commission, restarting the Youth Commission after a COVID hiatus, and expanding our SCOPE program. 2022 will be another year of great projects, including but not limited to the Trailhead renovation with a new building, improved driving range, and expanded parking, Kramer Parkway overpass and reconstruction from Sprague to Country Vista, improved network security, and 24/7, 365 days a year network monitoring, upgraded security cameras in our public spaces, installation of additional software approved in 2021 for the police department, installation of 4 additional flashing crosswalk beacons to improve safe routes to school, completion of the public works yard, installation of a signal at Legacy Ridge and Country Vista, design for improvements to the Appleway and Country Vista intersection near Stone Hill, and completion of the sidewalk between Aladdin and Caulfield on the north side of Mission, another safe route to school. Over the next 8 to 10 weeks, the council will review the budget, evaluate priorities, and request changes based on those priorities. Community input is very important in this process, and I encourage all of you to participate over the next 8 to 10 weeks. Thank you very much. And as I noted earlier, the council will get the budget binders hand-delivered to your homes tomorrow afternoon. Thank you. All right, so that moves us already over to reports and inquiries. Do we have any city council reports? Councilmember Dunn.
Yeah, on October 13th, I attended an MRSC online webinar, The Construct of Countering Social Media Misinformation, timely for our discussion tonight. The presentation was set by a presenter with a communications function group in California. So decidedly, California related information, but because as engaged by MRSC, provided some interesting insight insofar as how Washington's public records laws have significantly greater restrictions than many other states in the nation. And so talked about how the importance of, I'd say, more official channels rather than social media are important for engagement. Great observations, 2 documents which came with it. I'll make them available through Katie and make sure everybody gets a look at it. Great one I found was the City of Glendale rumor page. And you can Google this one. This is where the City of Glendale, as an effort to try and counteract what is innuendo, rumor, and insult happening in various communities, you name your platform, have kind of a Snopes for their own city. And so to have on a discrete URL, a very specific place, here is a rumor and here's why it's not true, proved to be decisive for that community in trying to be direct. Because the consultant emphasized that social media by nature is really about rumor, and rumor becomes truth. And so hence the concept, don't use social media for city information because it elevates rumor into truth. But it was great. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, any other city council reports? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to point out this last week, had the pleasure to attend the groundbreaking ceremony for the Kramer Parkway dedication. It was well attended by individuals, and we had the privilege to dig into some of the largest financial assets we have in the city, and that was our golden shovels. We brought them out, we dug some dirt. You probably saw, some of you saw the picture that was on the social media there. The thing that I do want to say is this, is that everybody that spoke talked about what it took to get to this point. And I just wanted to be able to reiterate some of that, is that the literally thousands upon thousands of hours that are put in by staff, former Mayor Steve Peterson, all the council members, the fire department, the police department, the school district, the lobbyists that we had. This was a huge, huge event that just didn't happen overnight. This took years to be able to get this. The thing I want to remind everybody is that when we look back on the $24+ million that we got, that particular year, the east side, all the money tends to go to the west side, but the east side, there was only 2 things that were funded of any size, and ours was one of them. And what's unique is that I think what happened there is that because we had so much of the community with the school, with the fire department, police, everybody involved, and also our local senators and stuff, but the city also looked at, we were willing to put some skin in the game. There's 281 cities in this state. Everybody has their hand out for their special projects and stuff. And I think what rose us to the top is that we looked at, we had money that we could go along with the state. And I think that really is what got us over the top. So I just want to reiterate for all those who've been involved over the years, a lot of individuals that started, even 12, 13 years ago that were involved. Thank you for all of that. And I'm excited about where we're going in the future with that overpass. Thank you.
Great. Okay, any other city council reports? Not seeing any. Very brief mayor's report today. Encouraging discussions with SRTC board with regards to the 2045 plan. A lot of things obviously are touching more along the north-south corridor, the division and 195, but always good to be part of those discussions and making sure Liberty Lake's voice is heard as a member of that board. Another great meeting with Advantage GSI, the Advantage Spokane group. This is the jurisdiction-specific links to ours being Liberty Lake through GSI for site finding and information for businesses wanting to move here, and the efforts that GSI is making with regards to reaching out across the country to try to recruit businesses. I will be sending some of those facts and figures to you guys tomorrow with my report. And excuse me, last but not least, again, Visit Spokane Holiday Marketing Board has been one of the more fun boards I've been on over this year. with regards to marketing for the holidays, and we'll be continuing to work with Winter Glow and the Inlander and Visit Spokane with regards to promoting that event. And then one more thing I might add, I went to a good event earlier late last week, and you know, we are, I love that our city keeps the politics out of this room, out of the council chambers. And what I walked away from, the biggest thing from that event that I went to, it was, you know, we have our national treasure, obviously the bald eagle, and he has a right wing and he has a left wing, and he cannot fly without those two working together. So I'm over the years, just like I said, so proud of this body. As much as it has changed and people have come and gone over the years, we have been able to keep the politics out of this room, and I look forward to that continuing. So that was the biggest thing that stuck with me. I just wanted to share that. And we go on to Planning Commission report. I think I saw Tim Olson. Are you speaking for Planning Commission tonight, Tim? I wasn't sure who was doing it.
I am not. I'm sorry, Mayor.
That's okay. Is anybody else here from the Planning Commission? I don't see anybody. Okay. City Administrator report. Welcome back, Katie.
Thank you. It's good to be back. So on that note, before I start with my report, as Todd's bringing it up on the screen, there was two things I was going to add. One is the Meadowood Technology Comp Plan Amendment and Zone Change. There's a lot of comments that are being circulated throughout our community. And if the council receives any comments, we request that you provide a written summary of them to Lisa. Lisa wants the opportunity to provide those to the applicant so that they can respond to them during the hearing process. It's hard to respond to anecdotal conversations, and I have a feeling that some of the community members may be reaching out to our council members, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, we would just like you to provide those comments to our staff so that those comments can be addressed by the applicant. And then the other thing I was going to mention is that, let's see, there was one other thing. Oh, on the Trailhead budget, Kelsey's already scanned it and she'll be sending it to you. It is a draft, but the design and construction costs are about 83% of the project budget, or $6.965. So the 8.4, roughly 7 million, would be design and construction costs, and that includes escalation and building contingency. The remaining is soft costs, everything from utilities to SEPA to advertising to moving expenses. The list is pretty long, but we'll get you the breakdown of what that draft looks like tomorrow. And then I'll also just kind of remind the council, those 3-ring binders for the budget will be done tomorrow, and I guess we're going to be hand delivering them to you. So if you have mail in your mailbox, we'll grab it and deliver it with your binders.
Councilmember Stevers?
Yeah, just a quick request. I did this last year too, but is there any way that we can get a digital copy of that? I know it requires a tremendous amount of scanning, and I apologize for that, but is there any way we can get an emailed or digital copy of the budget also?
Kyle's nodding his head, so I'm guessing that's a yes.
Yeah. So I'll make the digital copies available for anybody that wants those.
Kyle, can we put a link on our city website page so the community can...
Sorry, we'll be doing that as well. We'll post it on the website tomorrow as well.
Oh, great. That's perfect. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Annie?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you called on me. I just wanted to say thank you in advance, because last year I got this beautiful binder that had like highlighters and the sticky notes and all the things to do the magic with it, which I really appreciated. So thank you everybody for putting that together for us. I really appreciate the hard copy. For me, that's just what works for me. So thank you to everybody that's doing all that work, besides the paper part, but like the conceptualizing of the budget and putting everything together. Much appreciated.
Okay, so on that note, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the matrix, and Kelsey's kind of taken this on. She's working hard to make it a little bit more concise and usable. So Kelsey, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Katie. Todd, if you could display the matrix on the screen. And while he's doing that, Mayor and members of the council, just want you to let you know that this is still a working document. And so I'm revising and changing the format a little bit as I use it to kind of hopefully organize it and make it a little bit more usable and easier to view for you guys to see the status of projects.
So maybe we can keep going. In, oh, is it coming?
Todd, are you waiting for me to share my screen?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with technical issues with that.
Yeah, if you can, Kelsey.
Yeah, one second. I think I can do that. It's actually not enabled. So I just had really two things to touch on. On the matrix, we have obviously the ones that are scheduled for today and on the agenda. There's the primary one I want to touch on is the follow-up on the resolution for the council rules of procedures. The second half of this week, I will be cleaning up the document based on the last two workshop discussions that you all had, and hope to bring that back to you as a resolution for action in the upcoming council meeting. Unless I run into any issues that I feel like I need council guidance on, my goal is to bring that back for action in the next meeting. The other main item on here is the capital facilities plan workshop. Obviously we had today, and we'll have another workshop related to budget at the next council meeting as well.
And then along those lines, Mayor and Council, what I kind of heard was November 4th, when we have the council meeting and the workshop on the budget, maybe it would be good at that meeting for the council to discuss other meetings that they need between November 4th and the end of the year, so that we could go ahead and kind of get those dialed in with everyone's schedule. Not sure that the council wants to stick with Tuesdays or a council meeting Tuesday, or if they want to go off on a different schedule, but something to think about.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like I said, after we get through with maybe the first 40 minutes on the 4th, we'll kind of have a good gauge of how the process is going to go, and then we can take a look at what other meetings we need to set.
Okay.
Hey, quick audio check. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor, did you want us to go ahead and get started again?
I believe the speakerphone hanging, the microphone hanging over the speakerphone has not been turned on.
Okay, thanks for everybody's patience. Let me just double check. We have all our council members back. Mayor Pro Tem,
Present.
Councilmember Severs,
I'm here.
Councilmember Follier. There you are. Councilmember Garcia,
Present.
Councilmember Kurtz,
Present.
thank you. Councilmember Linford,
Yes.
and Councilmember Dunn. All right.
Still
All
happy to
present.
be here.
Same here. Okay, so Kelsey, did you need to go back to your did you want to go back to the matrix at all?
I think I've covered what I wanted to say if nobody else has questions.
Oh, there's the matrix.
Thank you for tackling that, making it more navigable.
Yes. Okay, moving on to number 2. So wanted to give you all an update on our road projects related to signage. And so first I wanted to talk about Appleway at Liberty Lake Road. And so this is kind of that main intersection in our city near Walgreens. And when you're heading west on Appleway, there are 4 lanes as you approach the intersection. The curb lane and the number 2 lane are right-hand turns. The number 3 lane is straight, and the number 4 lane is a left-hand turn to go south on Liberty Lake Road. And we thought that by putting directional signage on the mast arm, it would allow our residents to queue up into what lane they wanted to be in. And so I won't go into a lot of detail, but it's a little more complicated because that mast arm was, we don't know, we're not sure the bearing on it and the structural ability for it to handle additional signs. So for us to do some, I call it forensic work, we would have to do some geotechnical work to find out the bearing on it and to find out the size of the footing. It would be about $10,000 just for us to do that work. And if it wasn't strong enough, if you will, to hold the signs, then you're looking at a new mast arm, and that could be more than $100,000. So I'm just giving you some figures based on looking at it today with our engineer tech and also our chief Simmons. We found out that people are figuring it out what lane to be in, and we painted arrows on the road, and it really helps. So as you're approaching that intersection, there's a lot of arrows on the road, and so you know whether it's a left or right or a straight. So I think we're okay for right now, and the mayor and I talked a little bit, and we'll keep an eye on it. But this also pertains to what I call that southbound slip lane. So this is when you're southbound taking a left. There was a number of accidents. The chief and I went down and looked at it real time, and we were very concerned, hence we closed it. But we're going to have our new engineer look at that intersection as well. So right now, if you get asked about the signage or about that slip lane, just know that we're continuing to evaluate and make sure that at the end of the day, we want to have a really safe operational plan for those locations without spending a lot of money. We still want to make sure that we are on the side of safety. And then the other thing,
Katie, just for clarity for the audience and council too, if need be, the slip lane that Katie's talking about is that left-hand turn going into the parking lot between McDonald's and Walgreens.
correct. So right now it's closed off. It was closed off after I think we had 3 accidents in less than 24 hours there. So on that note, I also wanted to talk about the Appleway project from our city limits on the east all the way to state line. If you've driven it, it's a fantastic road. I mean, between the shoulder, the new bike lane, the striping, what a fantastic improvement. What a great job the county did. And at the intersection at state line, they have stop signs. So it's a three-legged stop sign intersection. They're going to have a public hearing, the county commissioners are going to have a public hearing on October 26th. and our engineering staff, as well as our chief, are going to be attending that hearing to voice their support for the modifications to include the stop signs. So I just wanted to pass that on. Also, the temporary speed limit on that is 35, and that's because they don't have the guardrails in yet, and they're back ordered. I see Councilmember Langford has a comment, question.
Yes, Katie, would it be possible for you or the staff to put together just a card or a letter of thank you to the county for that improvement as it stands today? Let them know that the council appreciates that very much.
Will do. I sent an email to their CEO, but I will put together something from the council. And yeah, no, I appreciate it. What a great way to say thank you to our county, because they really did coordinate with us on a lot of aspects of that project. So we'll do. So right now the three-way stop signs are up there, and from everything I'm being told from our police department to others, it's functioning very well. It's a great improvement. So on that note, I'm just going to go down to number 3, Executech Professional Services. This was amended agenda, included in your amended agenda. This says we received a quote, and because of the time sensitivity, wanting to move forward, I think the Mayor Pro Tem covered it pretty well. We did put together an agenda bill and give you a copy of the quote, and Kelsey sent that to you probably about 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon. So hopefully you've received it and had a chance to look at it. And if you have any questions, we can answer those questions. And then finally on Trailhead, I was just going to mention a few things. The project is moving forward. This Friday, we received SOQs, which is Statement of Qualifications, from design build teams that are interested in our project. Next Friday would be, well, a week from this Friday would be October 29th. We will be evaluating them. When I say we, Councilmember Foyer, Chris Johnston, Lisa, and myself will be evaluating the proposals, and then interviews are scheduled to be conducted November 9th and at City Hall. So we'll actually be doing the interviews of the proposals. So that's kind of the schedule. Things are moving along. There's interest in this project. They had a pre-construction or pre-bid, if you will, meeting at City Hall, and it was pretty well attended. Lisa, I think we had 4 firms that showed up, as well as some other people that have an interest in the project. Councilmember Severs?
I'll start this by saying I very much appreciate other council members that are already involved, but are other council members able to attend this, or if we want to?
You know, that's a great question. If you're in,
On the 9th.
Pardon me?
On the 9th.
Yeah, so there's some interesting thing in the public sector that they do on interviews, because some of the information is proprietary, and I'm not sure how this is going to be handled. But if a council member, and Mayor, I'm going to look to you to give us some assistance also. If a council member really wants to be involved, you have to be involved in the whole process. So you have to attend this Friday, a week from Friday, and then the interviews. So you have to kind of be involved in every step of the procurement process. But certainly if a council member wants to be involved, as long as there's not a majority, I'll defer to the mayor.
Yeah, if you think you can clear your calendar and attend all, we can make accommodations for that. And if we do, and I guess I look to Sean for this. Obviously, if we get to the point where we have 4 or more, we would need to make sure we can notice it as a public meeting far enough in advance. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mary. Yes, I'm very interested in attending those.
Okay. If you can just get those into, Katie, you want this to come to you and Kelsey to keep track?
Yes, why don't we, if a council person is able to attend the meetings, let me go over those timeframes. October 22nd, this Friday, the meeting is at 10:30. October 29th, it's at 2 o'clock. And then the interviews will likely be all day on November 9th. And you have to be involved in all of it. And everything that's discussed is not public, and it's kept to the team. Yeah, we're not able to discuss those interviews in public at all.
So Katie then, and I'm gonna make sure, yeah, Sean, question for you, I guess, on this point. So if we do end up having 4 or more council members attending that, would it then, because it is confidential to a point, would they be noticed as executive sessions then?
Potentially. I mean, the other issue is if it's obviously going to be public and it's confidential, I would say yes, that would be the answer, probably the best way to approach it.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on the number of members and any noticing that we might have to do. Thanks.
Quick question,
Go ahead.
and I apologize, maybe I misunderstood. Are there different entities interviewing these 3 different times, or is it interview 1, interview 2, interview 3 of the same entities? And my question is really, why does a council member need to be involved in all 3? And I'm not doubting it, I'm just asking the question, why does a council member need to be involved in all 3 versus just the final interview?
Yeah, so during the interview and selection process, there cannot be any what we call competitive advantages. And so if you only saw part of the interview process, and there could be a perceived bias that you didn't see the full interview process. And so that's why the team members all have to participate in every single meeting. So one is a statement of qualifications review. The second is ranking. And the third step will be the interview process. And just for consistency, they want, if you're involved in one part, you have to be involved in all parts.
Well, thank you for the answer. I appreciate that.
So can I just ask, if you are interested, let us know by, today is Tuesday, I'd say please let us know by Thursday morning so that we can send out an email notification and get it on your calendars.
I can tell you I cannot be involved so in the first 2, but I could the last, so I can't be involved. So thank you for the answer, Katie.
Okay, so if anyone else is interested, let us know. And on that note, I will turn it over to Jandy.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I wanted to give you guys a update on everything that's happening at the library lately. The library has expanded its hours, so we're back to our pre-COVID hours. We've been 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. for quite some time now, but then after school started, we were able to expand back to our Thursday evening hours. So on Thursday nights, we're open from 6 to 8 p.m. And that is the time that we usually do a lot of our adult or teen programming. So the library is back to doing in-person programs. We do have certain COVID protocols in place to keep everyone safe and to keep everything above board. But we're happy to have, the kids back in the library for story time, and our school age kids and teens and adults coming to our activities at the library. So that's been really fun. The other thing I wanted to let the council and mayor know about is a recent program that we just started on Monday. Last week, I got a call from the Spokane Regional Health District about partnering with them on a program. So the health district is partnering with the Liberty Lake Library and then the 2 Spokane Public Library and Spokane County Library District to offer free COVID-19 test kits to the public. So they are available for anyone to pick up at the library via curbside. So it's only, so with the idea that if someone had been exposed and they were concerned that they would not be coming into the library and exposing everyone. So it's a curbside service where they can call the library and request it's an Everlywell COVID-19 test kit. And then one of the staff members will bring it out to them in the car and put it in their trunk. So we're really excited to be able to offer this to, all the members of the public. Right now, it's a program that only the Spokane Regional Health District is advertising. So if you were to look on the library or the city's Facebook page, you wouldn't see anything about the program. They were just concerned about being overwhelmed. Right now, they have 9,000 test kits that they're offering, and they are able to get more, but they were worried that the demand would overflow the supply. So that's why I wanted to come on here and let the council and the mayor and the citizens of Liberty Lake know about the program. There are no requirements to receive a test, whether it's, you've been exposed or you're traveling, or you just want to have a test handy in case of possible exposure. But we're just really excited to be able to offer this to the community.
Go ahead, Councilmember Dunn.
Apologies for that delay. Jandy, I'm actually incredibly thrilled. A quick search results reveals that the Everlywell home test kit retails for $109. So to be really clear, what we are able to offer to our community is of incredible value. So I am very grateful for this collaboration, and yeah, grateful for the value that adds to our community. Thanks.
Jamie, as I understand it, these are not valid for travel. Is that correct?
So it's a PCR test. So it depends on where you're traveling and what they require. But that was a question that was sent that we had today. And so that's the kind of test that it is. So the district was saying it works for some travel, but not all. So that's something you'd want to check.
Thank you. Great program. This is kind of going to be a word of mouth thing. So for those of you who are guests today at the meeting, just keep that in mind. And like Jandy said, it's advertised on the health district's site, but that's where it's going to stay for now.
Okay, on that note, Mayor, I'll turn it over to Jen. She's going to complete the report.
Katie, Mayor, Council, we have a few commission positions open. Library trustee position has opened up, and Jandy and the mayor are actually working on that one now. Parks and Arts Commission, we will be completing interviews next week, hopefully to fill that empty position. And community engagement positions are open, posted, and we are receiving those. Recruitment, it sounds like a permit tech starts on November 2nd for Lisa, and that will backfill Kelsey's position. And the new city engineer will begin on October 27th. Just a couple of events and reminders. Leaf and Beach drop off this year is the whole month of November, 7 days a week, dawn till dusk. And people are encouraged to bring their clean green. There are some particulars about that the Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District has posted on their website. But they're encouraged to bring them out to the Harvard sewer plant. And there's a hearing for Lisa on the Meadowood Technology Center zoning, 9 a.m. on October 26th. If you have any questions, you can follow up with Lisa on that. And then a reminder again that the November 2nd council meeting has been moved to November 4th. Are there any questions?
Councilmember Garcia and then Councilmember Dunn.
Thank you. The hearing on the NTC zoning at 9 a.m., is it a possibility that staff, perhaps Lisa or Katie or both, can give a breakdown to the community on how things get from the permit or the request level all the way to the city council and what steps it actually goes through, i.e. to include hearing examiner for instance, if they can just have a short, brief explanation on how things shake out before they get to the city council and the public comment, if that can be added when the discussion on the hearing starts on that item.
So the hearing on the 26th is before the hearing examiner. And there's a prescribed protocol in terms of what's happening. My staff report actually does lay out that process, and I can give a brief overview of the process. as I'm giving my staff presentation. But just for the benefit of all of the citizens and city council, this has already been before the hearing exam or before the planning commission. They've made a recommendation regarding the comprehensive plan amendment. The hearing examiner is actually going to be focused on the request for zone change. It will then go to city council as a public hearing where city council will be making a decision on both the comprehensive plan amendment and the zone change. And just to make it clear, this is the zone change cannot be approved if the comprehensive plan amendment is not approved, and vice versa.
Right. And I just would like you to reiterate that on the 26th so that the people who may show up in particular for the MTZ zoning issue will be able to hear all of that information. So they have a better, well-rounded explanation and they can understand a little bit the process. That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think Councilmember Dunn, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I have a question unrelated to the actions in the administrative report, but related to the community, if I could throw that really quick. Lisa, related to traffic movement, southbound on Liberty Lake Road, south of Appleway immediately, there is a left turn lane into a driveway adjacent to Walgreens drive up and the McDonald's drive through. That left turn lane has been blocked, road closed. Just curious if it will ever open.
So the intent, we as Katie had mentioned, we had multiple accidents in a very short time frame at that, in part because of the congestion associated with the Harvard Bridge project. When we closed that, things also continued to be congested because of the Appleway closure. We decided that that we would evaluate that particular the slip lane at that intersection when our new city engineer comes on board. And so we want to take a really close look at that. It has been a hot spot for accidents. And we do want to make certain that with the improvements that we've made, that it still makes sense for that to continue.
Great, thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. A follow-up question from Councilman Dunn there for Lisa. I can certainly understand because of the bridge being done in Appleway and like that, we've had some accidents there. But what is our history prior to that? Because that turn lane has been there for many, many years. Has that been an ongoing accident-prone area?
So Mayor Pro Tem, again, that is the analysis that we're going to have our new city engineer do, and we can do the research on that. At this point in time, I do not have the resources to do that, and would prefer that a PE be actually doing that analysis.
Thank you.
And I know the chief is also, because I had asked a similar question too, because I know there's also quite a number of accidents in that dash. I think that was one of Katie's words, the dash between Yokes and Safeway, the one that goes straight across. So I had asked him to pull that information as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mayor, I think that concludes our report unless there's other questions.
No, I didn't know there was a second page to the administrator's report, so nice, short and sweet, everybody. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions on Katie and Jen's or Jandy's reports? No, okay. Moving on to workshops. So we want to go ahead, and we had moved item workshop C for commercial broker services for restaurant on Trailhead to be moved in front of the code of ethics discussion. So I do know we have, I believe a couple people here who had responded after Lisa sent out the additional request for basically for proposal. Lisa, did you want to take this and do the introduction?
Yeah, if I can. So we did send out a request for a marketing plan and kind of a resume related to restaurant brokerage experience. And we sent it out to a number of firms. And we had basically 2 respondents. One was Bird Realty. And we have with us today Sharon Reynolds to kind of give you an overview of their marketing plan and their background. And also Eric Peterson from Glendale and Barbieri. And he's here as well to also share that information with you. Just for the public's information, we did not get all of that information until Friday. And so that information was sent out to City Council on Monday. With that, maybe I can turn it over to Sharon first to present on behalf of Bird Realty, and then we'll ask Eric to share his information as well.
Hi, I'm Sharon Reynolds. I'm with Bird Real Estate Group. I know Doug gave a quick briefing last week or 2 weeks ago, sorry, whenever it was. Bird Real Estate Group has been around for 25, 30 years, something like that. I've been with the company for 17 years. I actually live in Otis. I've lived out here for the majority of my life. So I know the area very well. I'm very familiar with Liberty Lake. We have substantial history with restaurants and with other businesses in the area. We market on national websites, as does the other company you'll hear from, Glendale and Barbieri. We pretty much, I believe, both have the same reach. We market to, locally, and then also Seattle, California, wherever. Anybody that's interested they can't not see the listings. So does anyone have any questions?
Looking to the council, I don't see any hands up. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, the question I do have is in regards to the contract. So I think it's probably not appropriate at this moment to ask that question. I'll wait until we get into the contract discussion. Thank you.
We actually don't believe we have a contract on this agenda for tonight. It's on the next.
Yes,
Okay.
if I may clarify that the intent of this meeting is to get some direction from City Council as to which direction they would like to go, and we'll bring a professional service contract back to City Council at your meeting on November 4th.
I see Councilmember Langford has this question.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I'd like to find out if my question would be appropriate during this period of time, so I'll ask the question to you. And if it can be picked up by the presenter, fine. If not, that's fine too. Can we get a breakdown of what their history is with particular restaurants and where those restaurants were placed?
I think, to me, that sounds like an appropriate question for both of our guests tonight. Sharon, would you like to address that?
Yeah, I guess one of our biggest ones, as far as a national company, would be Pizza Hut. And that is, we work with them to figure out, where they want to be. They have very specific geographical boundaries for each location. And we work within that to figure out where they want to be. Doug just assisted Dryfly with their new location downtown. So, we've got large corporations, we've got the little guys. I'm working with restaurants, little people here that want to open restaurants. So, as far as geographical, we give them a bunch of options and let them choose where they want to be, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I should have been much more specific, and I apologize for that, Sharon. But specifically, has your company had any experience placing restaurants within the structure of a city-owned property or city-maintained property?
Not that I am aware of. Doug unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but not that I can think of.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Uh-huh.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This would be a question. I realize we have another gentleman that also has an opportunity to speak for his company. My question would be this. I'm assuming here, tell me if my assumption is incorrect or not, that you will put out information to any individuals owning restaurants or something like that, that would have an interest in moving in this facility. I assume you're going to come back to the city with 5, 6, 7 possibly different companies that have an interest in this, and the pros and cons, that how they would be good for the city in those areas, and therefore we could make a selection from those people?
Yes, absolutely. That is the goal. We would make it available to restaurants, but then also the other brokers. Locally, there's a group called Traders. All the commercial brokers are involved in that. They all have their contacts with restaurant groups. So if they see that there's something's available, they can go back to their people and say, hey, this is available. Are you interested? So yes, to answer your question, that is the goal.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you, Sharon.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions for Sharon before we move over to Eric? No? Okay. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you for having me. Ryan wasn't able to make it tonight. His 1-year-old got admitted to the hospital late this afternoon, so he apologizes for that. Just to walk you guys a little bit about Glendale and Barbieri. We've been in business since 1937. We've done pretty much all gambits of real estate, retail, restaurant, multifamily, office, hotels, ground up development. We've done quite a bit. We've been a public company at one point, and now we're a private company. We've worked on quite a few public-private partnerships. We were integral in the Expo at 74. We worked on the Centennial Trail project. We had a lot of land that adjoined where the trail was going, so we worked with the city of Spokane on that. Recently, we've worked to answer. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Okay. To answer one of the recent questions about if we've done any city projects, Ryan actually worked with the city of Henderson, Nevada, and it was actually a golf course project where they brought retail and restaurant to the city-owned golf course. I wish he was here to speak more on that, but he's not able to be here. I've done quite a bit of work with the city of Kalispell, Montana. We've got some projects up there. We've done some public-private partnerships. We've brought a trail in. We've sourced funding. We've done quite a bit with cities. So with your project, some fun things that Ryan and I kind of chatted about, and I don't know how far down the road. I know you're seeking a design builder, but one item was, as an example, could you double decker your driving range so you can fit double the people, but then that allows people can spend a little bit more time, so that restaurant could actually serve food and beverage, so it helps the restaurant out to get more sales. Therefore, they can pay more in rent or in gross sales rent, but then it allows people to be kind of mingle at the driving range a little longer, and then it doesn't take up too much parking, because they're, instead of eating at the restaurant, they might be eating at the driving range, kind of just hanging out and having fun. But that property is, and I live in Liberty Lake currently, and I grew up coming here, and as a kid, and my wife, she was born and raised in Liberty Lake, and it's really just an iconic location. So we see a really fun restaurant being at that location that the community can gather at, that golfers can go and be there after their game of golf. But that's how we see it. We see that there's a real opportunity for that to just be kind of the gym as you drive into Liberty Lake and you see up that hill, just a beautiful restaurant where you want to go and have fun with your friends and family. You've seen our marketing plan. I think it was just distributed to the council members prior, but we've worked with several restaurants. One of them recently in Liberty Lake was Snow Eater Brewing. We put them in. We've worked with all sorts of nationals, all sorts of regional, and all sorts of local restaurants. We've already created for this project a hit list of 213 restaurants that we're planning to actively market to that fit kind of the size parameter that we're guessing it to be, probably between 2,500 to 5,000 feet. So we've already started kind of doing some due diligence on that with some local tenants.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Okay. Sharon, Eric, is there anything you guys would like to add? And then I'll lead the council in a discussion to be able to get staff some direction.
Yeah, I guess on marketing the center, I mean, obviously we're all members of a lot of the same organizations, traders, as Sharon mentioned, but there's a lot of good programs, and we have a website that we market to, and we have a current list of over 2,000 retailers that are searching in the Northwest, whether it's restaurant or clothers. Obviously you guys don't want a clothing shop there, but we do have access to some tools to actively search other users that aren't in the Spokane community and quickly market to them.
Thank you. Councilmember Kurtz. Oh, sorry. Councilmember Kurtz, if you don't mind, I'll let Sharon go and I'll get back to you. Go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that Doug and I would love the opportunity to work with City of Liberty Lake, but we have worked on quite a few projects with Ryan with Goodale. We haven't met Eric, or at least I haven't. And I know that you guys would be in great hands with either company you decide to go with.
Appreciate that. Okay, we got Councilmember Kurtz and then Mayor Pro Tem.
I just wanted to ask, I think we saw a contract at our last meeting. Would the terms of the contracts, cost, price, all that be comparable between the two companies?
I guess I haven't seen the contract. I saw in the minutes that were, there was an executive summary from Bird, but I haven't seen that. I did not see a contract that was listed in there, so I couldn't tell you if they're the same or not.
Sorry. They are probably similar. The commission for most commercial brokerages is 6%. It's pretty standard. So the contracts are probably, again, I'm guessing, very similar.
Thanks, Sharon.
Katie or Lisa, did you have anything to add on that? With regards to the contract?
Again, that's my understanding is that it's a pretty standard fee. Most of the professional service, the standard language in the professional service agreement are things that we require, and we would probably ask that of any vendor.
Thank you. Then we've got Councilmember Severs and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I greatly appreciate both professionals being here tonight, and I guess my question is, it may not actually be towards either realtor group, but what materials should we be looking at to choose between the two contracts?
I can start off first, and just when you say standardized fees, it's illegal in the state of Washington to have a standardized fee for services in the real estate business. But as Sharon mentioned, typically they're 6% unless someone wants an extended marketing plan or things like that. But to answer your question, things that you should be looking at differently. Most brokers have access to the same tools. It just depends on, there's different types of access. For one example, CoStar, there's silver, bronze, and gold listings, and it depends on the level that the broker is and how much other listings that they would have with that software provider. But it really is, to do your due diligence and decide on whom to go through. You want someone to help guide you through the lease and help, find the right tenant for that property that won't be gone in 6 months or a year, and that can make it and do well. You want that. You don't want to find someone that can just pay maybe the highest amount of rent, but then they're gone. But there's a lot of creative ways that you can draft a lease to, maybe they have a lower base rent, but they pick up higher triple net costs, which is the common area maintenance on the property, maybe can offset some of the parking lot paving. And I don't know what Palenque's lease looked like as far as if they paid any proportionate share of the center, but those are things that, brokers could help you out with crafting the right language. And, once again, to have a gross sales clause. So if they do well, then the city can do well and make more income off that.
Thank you. Sharon, do you have any additional comments to that? I'm curious.
Honestly, no. I mean, what Eric said is perfect. We all have access to the same marketing sites. We all, use the same tools for the most part. Even as far as the lease agreements, there is a website that the majority of the brokers use that are all standardized leases. So it's just the marketing and keeping in touch, and, it's just our, both companies' reputations.
Thank you.
I have Mayor Pro Tem, and then Katie, I'll go to you.
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I did have a question on the contract, but I think we're sort of getting into it, but I do think my question would be premature at this point. We have two companies and they're going to give us an approach on what the terms and things are. I think it's probably best I ask my question at that point. So the other thing that I'd like to ask both you individuals is this, and it comes down to the marketing aspect of that. Liberty Lake, I think, is very unique. We're not so special, but I think we're very unique. We have a golf course, 9-hole. We have two other 18-hole golf courses in this town, which a lot of cities would just absolutely die to have even one of them. So we have a lot going for us. We have a beautiful 54 acres. We're in the process, we've obligated to spend $8.4 million. About $7 million of that is at hard cost of actually building and stuff. I realize that we haven't established at this point what the square footage is, because square footage will have a huge impact on what kind of a restaurant would want to go in there. So at the same time, we have to be careful not to dedicate so much square footage to a restaurant. It takes away from the overall, it is a golf course. So my question after that long introduction is, how do you both see marketing an absolute premier location? There's no restaurant in this town has the view that is. And I'd like to be able to say it's a $1 million view, but it's about a $15 million view. So I think we would have a lot of people who are interested, but it's critical that we have somebody there who really understands and appreciates what we have there. Because at the same time, we have to take into consideration the other restaurants we have in this town, that some of them have built buildings, they have a lot of invested in it, they lease property, and I think we have to be very, very careful that we do not give any more preference to a restaurant that would move into a facility owned and operated by the city that would put any of our other restaurants at a disadvantage. So how do you both see and envision marketing such a unique property?
Don't both of you jump at once.
Ladies first.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Thanks. I think, with us, it would be, some incredible pictures highlighting the town, definitely highlighting the golf course. The fact that Eric and I both live out here is a huge bonus, I think. We are very invested in the area. Doug and I already talked about that, more than likely, whatever restaurant it is, it's not going to be pizza. Just because Liberty Lake is full of pizza. So I would love to see something unique out here, and definitely not something that's going to pull business from any of the other restaurants. I mean, I don't know exactly what to say as far as that, but just, we already know it needs to be something unique, and definitely we understand highlighting the benefits of Liberty Lake.
Yeah, I think that's a tough question when you say you don't want to cannibalize another restaurant's sales, because no matter what restaurant you put there, it will pull sales from other restaurants. The more you add, the more it'll, there's only so much money in the city to go around, and people going out to eat. So it does, no matter what it is, it will cannibalize other restaurants. But if Palenque is moving to their new location and you do add one within the city limits, but obviously the goal would be not to do pizza and cannibalize more of the pizza sales, as Sheridan mentioned. But in reality, what we would do to market it is we have a list of tenants we've created already. We'd go try to meet with each and every one of them, gauge their interest, and really find the right tenant that can do well in that location, and be an iconic tenant at that iconic building with your $15 million view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like Councilmember Garcia's hand is up.
I believe Member Seaver's hand was up before mine. If he'd like to go ahead, I would.
Sorry, I missed that one. Go ahead, Councilmember Severs.
Actually, I think Councilmember Garcia's hand was up first. So go ahead, DG.
Thank you.
Unless you want me to go first.
No, well, we know that chivalry is not dead. Thank you very much. Do either of the companies, have you determined that you would like to do town halls around the community, where you're actually speaking with the residents in each neighborhood community that you do on your own as an exercise to find out what their interests may be, where their taste buds may lie, and what they may see as a hopeful tenant, perhaps a restaurant that already exists here that may want to go into that spot, or as you said, someone you've worked with before. Are you planning to do that sort of marketing that actually involves the lion's share of the community and what they might perceive as a great fit for that location?
Yeah, that could be a possibility. I guess my understanding was that there's a short timeline for finding a restaurant, as in a couple of months, because they want to have them involved in the design build process. So I don't know with that short timeline, it might be difficult to have town halls to get people together to see what they're wanting. And whether or not what people are wanting is that who can really come and pay the rent that building is going to have, being a new building. That's always tough to combine those together.
And Sharon, do you have a comment in regards to that?
Yeah, we haven't discussed any type of a town hall. And again, I agree with Eric, it was a short timeline. However, my thought went to, if you ask the town, town hall, or you ask the public what kind of restaurant they want, if you have 100 people, you're probably going to get 100 different answers. So I think it would, that's a tough question.
May I follow up, Madam Mayor?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Is that something you would consider, even with the timeline being short, so that the community would have, even though it might be one opportunity, and even though there may be 100 answers differently, that you include them perhaps in somewhat of the conversation, however small it may be, however quick it may have to happen, that you would include them? Would you consider that at all?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Severs and Katie, I did not mean to skip over you before.
That's okay.
We let you go first.
I'll rescind my question, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Katie, thanks for waiting.
That's fine. It took me a while to figure out how to raise my hand. So anyway, I have a question for both of you, and it's related to the fact that this is a design build project. And what experience do you or your company have with negotiating contracts on cold shells when the TIs are going to be completed by the restaurant? And the negotiation of the terms and conditions related to those TI improvements, because we're from the kitchen to the dining to the cleaning, or excuse me, dishwashing, prep, all of that. It's very, I think it might be a little bit difficult to negotiate terms when we don't have, we'll have square footage, but we won't have the details. So what experience does your team bring to the table on that?
Go ahead, Eric.
Sure. As in recent as far as some past recent transactions we've done with that being the case. I mean, if you guys have been to Root on the South Hill, that was the same case with that deal. Snow Eater Brewery was that case. We've done Starbucks in that situation, a US Bank. I've done a large department store development. So we've got significant history of doing deals with basically a cold shell and a TI package.
Thank you.
And Bird Real Estate Group as well. There's 2 buildings on Hamilton that we actually manage, and the tenants, Clark's Fork Restaurant, Forza Coffee, Brew Cheese, there's a sushi place. All of those were basically vanilla shells, and then the tenants built out their own restaurants.
Good question. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So I guess I would go back to one of my original comments, that it seems to me that what is going to be critical for either one of you who we select is that we need to be able to make a decision at some point what square footage you're going to have to work with. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, if we don't have any more comments or questions, I guess I will, council needs to come together and give the staff direction on which company to bring the to talk about working on the brokerage contract with. Sean, what's the best way to go about this? So I can just go down the line and ask for everybody to weigh in on each one. Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, Katie, what your plan is, what you're looking for as far as staff is concerned. Are you looking to want to have a contract come back before the council, or, I mean, because right now, as far as I know, there's only one contract for consideration that I've seen. So I don't know if there's additional information that needs to be provided to the council for their consideration before there's any kind of action. I'm open either way, but I'm not sure what the next step is with regard to staff.
So along those lines, Sean, what we're looking for from the council is which firm they would prefer to go with. And then we would work with that firm and bring back a contract for council's consideration. But right now we have 2 firms that have provided us with information and background. So we're kind of looking for direction from the council.
So Mayor, I would say you could have someone, if they want to make a motion with regard to the council members, and handle it that way with giving the staff direction as to bring back a particular contract for whichever entity that the council member makes a motion for, to vote on which one for the staff to bring back for the council's consideration.
That's what I was thinking. So do we have a motion from a council member with regards to bring back a contract for, and I don't hold the blank with who you want to make a motion for, Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm not making a motion, but it's a question. Should we be asking for a marketing plan? Now, I understand that something was given from one of the companies somewhat prior to the meeting, is that correct?
So
Yeah, we-
if I may, council members, you have been provided with marketing plans and restaurant experience from both firms.
Okay, and keep in mind that was just recently given to the council prior to the meeting, correct?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, okay. So I think for some of the council members, we've probably not had time to be able to really read that, understand it, be able to ask questions and stuff. For me, I could be quite honestly comfortable with both companies. I'm familiar with both companies. I've done business with both companies. Their reputation is spotless as far as I'm concerned. I still come down, for me, on making a vote, is that I have some specific questions about the contract terms.
So just for clarity, Mayor Pro Tem, are you talking about the contract between the city and the broker, or between the city and the restaurant?
City and the broker.
I thought, I just want to make sure we were clear.
Yeah, city and the broker.
So I think I've got Councilmember Severs and then Councilmember Kurtz.
Oops, sorry. Thank you, Mayor. I like to see contracts from both firms before we move forward and make a decision.
Councilmember Kurtz.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with Goodell and Barbieri.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move forward with Goodell and Barbieri. Do we have any discussion, any further discussion? Councilmember Langford.
Yes, Mayor. After listening to both sides and both company representatives, it's apparent that this body doesn't have the information necessary presented to them to make a decision. The fact that a motion was put on by one of our councilmen is premature at best, that we limit our knowledge and vote upon something that we don't know anything about. I see no reason that this can't be put off for one meeting till we have time to go through the information, compare the contracts to each other, and then make an informed decision.
Thank you. I have Councilmember Severs and then Councilmember Kurtz.
Sorry, my hand was still up from last time.
Okay, Councilmember Kurtz.
Lisa, can I ask a clarifying question? If you were to bring back a contract for Bird and for Goodell and Barbieri, a professional services contract, would there be any difference in the contracts based on the information that we have learned tonight, that there's a market rate for the percentages? How different would the contracts be if you were to go through the work, bring that back? And my second part of the question is, how would that affect the timeline that's been established that you guys are trying to work towards to have the restaurateur be a part of the design process?
So my answer to the first question is that I don't know until I work with Eric to develop a contract if there will be differences. I would be asking them to provide me with a draft contract. So that's number one. Number two, it depends. It depends if I bring the two back on November 4th and we continue to have discussions. And the council doesn't make a decision. We're starting to bump up against concerns about the timeline. If I bring the contracts back and council makes a decision, then I think that we can work with that timeline.
So my ask of the council would then be, given the information, the information that we already had from Bird, the information you were provided yesterday from Goodell and Barbieri, and given that information is already there, if Lisa brings back the two different contracts on 11/4, do you, at this time, feel that you have the information to make a decision on the 4th, so we don't hold up the timeline? General nod, Councilmember Garcia.
My question is, please clarify for me, Lisa, were both companies asked to submit something now, and were they asked to submit something at the same time? Was there a deadline for submission to submit their information?
So the answer is that I had a very short timeline with Bird. They had the same amount of time that that Goodale and Barbieri and the other firms did. It was just, I had done that prior to this. At your last council meeting, you asked me to bring it back today. That council meeting happened 2 weeks ago. So again, the challenge is that we have council meetings every 2 weeks. We have to get the information, the turnaround is quick. So the answer is they had the same amount of time, but we got Bird's information for the last council meeting. We got Goodale and Barbieri's for this meeting. I would expect that that Goodale and Barbieri could provide me with a draft contract that I could review with Sean and provide them with information on any of our required contractual clauses.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. So many hands up. Let me go to Eric first, then Katie, then Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you. I can provide a contract, but in that contract, as far as a fee, the fee would be 6%, and then we would share 3% with a cooperating broker.
Thank you. Katie?
Lisa, I have a question. Because this is a professional service contract, are we required to select the best qualified for negotiated contract? And if we can't reach the terms, we would bring back the second?
No, this is not that. Those are the rules for architects and engineers. Under our policy, we could bring a professional service contract. We could negotiate with one vendor and bring it back to council for approval, which is what we did initially. Council requested that we reach out to other vendors. We reached out to 4 other vendors, and we have 2 vendors that are interested.
So Mayor, my suggestion is if both firms, it sounds like their fees are comparable, but if they both gave us I'll call it a contract template and maybe a marketing, some marketing materials, provide it to council, and then we can put this on the agenda for November 4th.
Katie, point of clarification, we've already provided the marketing materials to council. They already have a contract for, they already have the contract for Bird. We'll ask Eric.
This would give the council more time to look at those materials that were provided yesterday. So along those lines, then I think that we could, once we establish the firm November 4th, then we would also have council approve a contract on November 4th. I think we could synchronize the projects. Exactly. That's my suggestion.
Absolutely.
That's what I was going for. Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, we have a motion on the floor. Are we getting too far away from that? Does that need to be dealt with? Are we getting too far off track here? And then I have a question.
Call the question.
Sean, that was more for you. We have the motion on the floor to bring back the contract for the one vendor. Are we getting too deep in the weeds on other things? Should we deal with that first, or can we continue this discussion as is? And then if Councilmember Kurtz would like to rescind or continue with that motion, we can.
I think the discussion is fine relative to the contracts and what's before the council. I can add myself, just for clarification, I have not seen any contract that's come back from Goodale and Barbieri. So like Lisa said, we would work together to put something together for comparison purposes for the council. Procedurally, to the extent that Annie, or I think it was Dan that seconded, did not want to rescind their motion, there would still have to be a vote on the motion because it's pending.
Thank you. So go ahead. We've got Councilmember Severs. I'm sorry, I've got
A continuation.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go back to what I originally wanted to ask, because the longer our discussion goes on, it keeps getting closer to this, and that is the compensation that we have two qualified companies, it seems. Let me ask one, the dreaded word, would they consider co-listing? Last thing you want to hear is realtors. Would they consider co-listing?
No.
Bird real estate, yes, we would consider it, yes.
Yeah, we would consider it. It's a lot of deals are done basically with co-brokers, and that's where I brought up the point of we would split 3% with the selling side of the brokerage.
Okay, then allow me to ask this question here, because for me moving forward, I have to have an answer to this. If both companies use the same compensation, 6%, something like that, I assume that the verbiage that Bird has given us would be the same as the other company. Specifically under compensation, what they have here is it's city agrees a consultant shall receive compensation of 6%, 5% of Bird estate does both sides. But here where it comes in, of the gross lease payment in cash upon execution of lease up to, but not to exceed 10 years. I'm okay with that, but my question is from this point on, including options, extensions, renewals, or holdovers for the site, facility, or building that is purchased or leased for the purpose of redeveloping Trailhead. My question specifically first is this: if we were hiring you to find somebody for us, they come in, we agree to the percentage, whatever it is, and that is negotiable. We agree to that, and we'll pay you over a period of, let's say, 10 years, or however it's going to be, if they're there for 10 years. What is your contract if that company decides they want to stay there and the city wants to have them stay there? Am I reading this that would be considered a renewal, and therefore either company that we select gets another 6%?
No, ours is up to 10 years. We don't take commission beyond the 10 years for Bird.
Then can you explain to me? I'm confused then. Why
We
does it say
could-
options, extensions, renewals?
Okay, if the original lease was only 5 years and then they wanted to extend or renew up another 5 years, that's the 10 years. But if they wanted to go beyond that, if they wanted to go to 20 years, we would still only charge up to 10 years.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like something we can have Sean take a look at it.
Right.
Okay.
That was a critical thing for me. I just want you to realize that I've owned a lot of commercial property. I've leased them out, been very successful with that. But I've always had to watch the fine print, because I got in a situation a couple of times where suddenly after a 5-year lease, whatever it was, the individual wanted to stay there, and lo and behold to me, the fine print I didn't pay attention to, and now I was paying a commission to the same real estate company that brought them to me originally and was doing nothing from that point on.
Right.
So that's why I asked that question. That's a big thing for me.
Okay. We'll take a note of that, Mayor Pro Tem, and make sure that the attorney keeps a look at that. Okay, so many hands. I think we have Councilmember Severs next, and then Councilmember Kurtz.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Dunn.
And thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. I think it's a little bit premature to vote on a contract tonight, or vote to move forward tonight. I'd like to see contracts from both firms. And I appreciate that we have marketing plans from both firms. I think we should push this to our next meeting when we got a little more time to review. And I'd like to see an actual contract from both firms. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Kurtz and then Councilmember Dunn.
I yield to Councilmember Dunn.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Dunn.
Just point of order, call the question.
Sean, help me through that. We don't run into that very often.
He's asking for a vote on the motion.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not mandatory. So I will call for last comments, and then, Annie, if you want, unless you want to do something with your motion, I will call for the vote on your motion. I want to open that up to you before I do that.
Well, I have mixed feelings about rescinding the motion because I feel like I want to be clear on what the expectation is of staff, what specific and concrete information I'm hearing contracts that Lisa needs to spend sending to us again. I hear that people want more time to review it. I'm also sensitive to the fact that we keep hearing that staff has limited resources, limited time, and would like to only handle things once. And so when information comes to us and we have the information we're getting here is saying that the financial terms are going to be likely very similar between them. That makes me want to call the vote and move forward with this. I hear that people saying that things are premature. This was the process that was discussed with the attorney and what was asked for. So I did put a motion forward so we can have a good discussion. And I'm willing to rescind my motion at this moment if the council is ready to vote next time. And Lisa has what she needs to be able to give us the information.
Thank you. And that's the question I've been trying to get answered as well. Go Councilmember Garcia and then Lisa, and then we will, then Annie, if you can make your decision.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Member Kurtz. I think it's only fair that both companies present their information. We are lacking information from one company. It may or may not be exactly, it may be juxtapositions quite different. And we really won't know that until that's presented. And it is at that time that we can call for the consolidation of their efforts as co-listers. But I think that we either go forward with the motion or we go forward with a motion to rescind the motion so that we can do one or the other. Thank you for your consideration.
So before, I will defer to Lisa. If we do go forward with wanting, if the council wants to bring back both, is that doable on your side? And Sean, you as well, because you will need to review that.
Yes, so I understand from Eric that he could provide us with a draft agreement. We could get it reviewed and on the council agenda. The other materials have already been provided. We can provide them again. I would suggest that if we go that route, that we have a workshop for discussion before you determine which contract you're actually going to act on under action items.
Absolutely. Okay. So, Annie, Councilmember Kurtz, I'll turn it back to you. It sounds like Lisa and Sean would be able to have both of those back. Sounds like based on the discussion from the council, they would like the extra time, and I would obviously we would need the council to commit to making that decision and approving whichever of the two contracts it is at the next meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With that in mind, I rescind my motion.
Sean, is that enough?
Dan, do you concur?
Sure.
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Motion is rescinded. So based on the discussion, quick summary, sounds like Eric, you can get that to Lisa, and she'll work with the city attorney. And on the 11/4 meeting, the council will have had a chance to better look at the materials they have, and we'll have both contracts. We'll have a short workshop, and then we will have that will decide which contract is up for approval during the action items. Good enough summary for everybody? Okay, great. Thanks, Eric and Sharon, for your patience and listening to the deliberations. So I assume we will probably see you both back here on the 4th for a short discussion and then a contract. All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on to our next workshop, ARP nonprofit funding. Kyle.
All right, Todd, if you could pull up our little infograph there. And so you guys have seen this largely already. The difference between what you're seeing now and what you saw last month is that we were able to finalize that third piece under considerations. What activities directly benefited the Liberty Lake community. And so that's kind of the piece I wanted to bring back kind of in its final form for council consideration for next steps as council considers, what level we want to fund these applications for shortfalls for 2020. And so we will need a budget amendment, but we do need that dollar amount before the budget amendment is finalized. And we can bring both of these pieces to the November 4th meeting if council does have some direction for us. And so as you can see, so the total shortfall was at 345,718. What we were able to identify for the Liberty Lake community was that 269,928. And so, just kind of repeating myself here, I'd like to see, if council has any other questions or what route council would like to go in terms of funding these applications.
All right, do we also have a copy of the spreadsheet that breaks all of that down? In our pack, has it. While we're waiting on that, Councilmember Langford.
Yes, Mayor. Can I talk to Kyle directly, please?
Absolutely.
Kyle, can you tell me what determines the difference from the overall cost and what's directly benefiting or the loss benefiting the city?
So that is largely, so we received applications, mostly from Liberty Lake centric nonprofits. We also received applications from entities that were not within the boundary of Liberty Lake, but it served the Liberty Lake community. And so we did have several parent teacher organizations, PTAs, that may not have their boundaries inside Liberty Lake, but they do serve a percentage of the Liberty Lake population. And so that was kind of the chore, was to try to drill down and try to identify what percentage each of these went directly, we could show benefited the Liberty Lake community directly. And one of the things that we wanted to avoid was funding all of these applications at 100% if their address was Spokane or Spokane Valley, because then they could, in theory, go to those entities as well when those applications open up and essentially, get much more than what their shortfall was originally.
Madam Mayor, follow up.
Absolutely.
Kyle, would the council have the ability to fund one of those at a certain rate and the other one at another rate? In other words, those who have a direct loss to the city could be, and I'm just grabbing a number, done at 75%, and those who are benefiting but not living or listed or doing business in the city could be rated or donated back to at 25%?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Councilmember Severs.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Kyle, I've done a little bit of outside research and talked to several other nonprofits in the last several weeks who were unaware of ARP funding and applications to local municipalities like Liberty Lake. And I'm going to call out one of them, which is SNAP, who said, geez, we weren't aware. And I'm not blaming the city. I'm only blaming the nonprofits for themselves being unaware, but there's additional dollars, if I'm understanding correctly, that might be attributed to these organizations. We're talking about funding the ones who've already applied, and I appreciate that. These particular organizations have done their due diligence and figure out how to apply, and they've been proactive on this. But if future organizations apply, by accepting this, are we precluding future organizations? And I will have a follow-up question.
I don't see any reason why we would exclude them. That would be ultimately a council determination if we do want to do another look back to 2020 for those that did not get in the first round of funding.
Thank you, Kyle. So if I'm understanding correctly, that if an organization were to apply in the future, they may come back and attempt to apply for 2020 dollars that have not yet been allotted.
Yeah, and that would be a council's determination. And I think, council and staff and the city as a whole, want to identify, these entities that have had these shortfalls, because this is a tailor-made use for these dollars. So we want to be able to get these dollars in the hands of these entities that have experienced hardship.
Thank you, Kyle.
Okay, we have Mayor Pro Tem, then Councilmember Fuller, then Councilmember Kurtz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing I'm not comfortable at all is one size fits all. We have quite a few individuals that have applied, some within the city, some without the city, outside of the city. Some of these individuals will certainly come back to us next year to ask for some additional funding. What I'm in favor of is that the council takes the time to look at each organization that has applied to us, and we determine a percentage that we would give to them. I, for one, am totally in favor of giving a higher percentage to specific organizations which are right in Liberty Lake. They've been in Liberty Lake, and a huge amount of their effort goes directly into Liberty Lake. Organizations outside the city, I'm not as motivated, because they also have access to go many places. And I would use, I could use any of it. Let's use Kiwanis, for an example, based here. The likelihood of them going to Spokane Valley or the city of Spokane and asking for funding, they probably really wouldn't get too much or even get on the list. So if that's the case, they're handicapped right off the bat. So I could see me leaning towards something like that. A lot of these organizations through the schools have access through many other areas. I'm certainly not in favor of we become the main source that gives them this revenue. So once again, I'm in favor that we look at each one individually, we determine what percentage they should get, and we can move forward realizing that this next year, they're going to come back to us and ask for some more. What I don't want to do is give these organizations a reason why not to go out and do what they were doing so successfully in the past, okay? I don't want to start feeding the bears, and they don't want to take care of themselves. Thank you.
Okay, we got up at bat, Councilmember Fuller, on deck, Councilmember Kurtz, in the hole, Councilmember Garcia. It is baseball season after all.
Perfect.
Councilmember Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate all of the applicants, most of them being local. I appreciate their honesty in what percentage of the funds would go to our city. As I look down through the list, a few things jump out at me or got my attention. The first one being the Riverbend Elementary PTSA. They're understanding they're first of all, they didn't give us any percentage of what goes to our city, but when I look at the Riverbend map, it's about the city takes up about a quarter of their district. So I might expect to see 25% there. So I'd like to maybe circle back with them on that if we could. My next comment would be on the Selkirk Middle School. The obviously it's 100%. The number they have as a shortfall includes a bigger number going forward into the future. I would fully support, given the other numbers from the other PTOs or PTAs. So that seems to me in line, and I have no issues with that one. The other one that comes to mind is the Family Promise of Spokane. From what I could tell, great organization. They're saying 25% of their funds would come back to Liberty Lake. But when I looked at their website, it says 89% of their funds goes to Spokane County. So I would maybe want to circle back with them and have them verify their 25% number. And then Kyle, you said a total of 269 for, but the worksheet here says 264.
And so, yeah, to clarify, I did hear back from Riverbend, and that is reflected only on the slide and not on what we've provided here for this worksheet. So I did hear back from Riverbend that percentage is right at 25%.
Which is what I figured, a quarter of their boundary. Very good. And then my last comment is I'm fully in favor of the treating everybody as fairly as possible. That's why I like the how much of the funds will stay in Liberty Lake, and we're going to move forward with helping these nonprofits. I'd like to see it based on that, not the total shortfall. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got Councilmember Kurtz and Councilmember Garcia and then Councilmember Severs again.
All right, Madam Mayor, I would like to make a motion to fund all of the organizations that applied for the ARP funds at the full percentage that applies to Liberty Lake, with the caveats that Selkirk Middle School would have the same funding as Green Acres, and that Riverbend would be at the 25% that Phil and Kyle were talking about.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was, who was that? Was it Councilmember Dunn?
Councilmember Severs.
Okay.
Severs.
All right, both. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion, and I do, I know we had Councilmember Garcia's hand up from before, and then Councilmember Severs, so I'm just going to stick with that order.
Wait, who's first?
Yeah, Councilmember Garcia, did you still want to comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members and staff. The report is thorough. I'm just hoping, however our vote lands, but I'm just hoping that when we revisit this for other entities, that we may consider also the families that may have been impacted, i.e. those that may have been able to get funding, perhaps for utilities and such. We include those individuals who live here, because at the end of October, as we all know, the moratorium is going to be lifted. We're going to have people in some pretty tough spots that we don't see right now. We don't see them in those tough spots now because they haven't come outdoors yet. But if we, I hope that we're going to do this again, but maybe solicit information from members in our community who actually live here and who have to go out for services because our city does not provide any of the necessary services that something like the pandemic laid on us. So it's going to be pretty tough for them. So I'm hoping we're still considering, if we haven't, I hope that we do consider what we can do on behalf of the residents here, many of which, and also property owners who are suffering, how we can handle that situation along with our ARP funds.
Thank you, Councilmember Garcia. I expect there will be continued discussions on how to use these funds. Thank you for your comments. Councilmember Severs.
Likewise, I just appreciate the applicants that are here today, and I'd like us to consider getting this funding to these applicants immediately to help them. And likewise, I'd like to reiterate that future funding may be in effect for other applicants as we move forward. So I like to move forward and just getting funding towards these folks, get it to them now, because we don't know how urgent these funds may be for each individual organization, and I hope we quickly bring back future funding considerations to other nonprofit organizations. So for that matter, I'm going to vote towards helping these nonprofits now, and I'm going to hope that we will vote to help future nonprofits where we see that they will help the citizens of Liberty Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any, I know Councilmember Dunn, we haven't heard from you. Do you want to chime in?
I think this is an important action for the city, and specifically we've gathered together what in my opinion is the really important groups that do work for our community. I'm going to abstain from voting as I am a board member of one of the applicants.
Duly noted, thank you. Now we have, okay, I've got Councilmember Garcia and Councilmember Severs, both hands up. I didn't know if those were left from before. Another comment, Councilmember Garcia.
No, I also am going to abstain from the vote as I am a board member of one of these organizations.
Duly noted. Thank you. Councilmember Severs, your hands down. Any other comments? Okay, so hearing, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem. You always catch me at that last second.
I have a question for our attorney. Just being a board member, does that exclude someone from voting? Because I'm familiar with, obviously, both council members and the organizations they're involved with, and I have total confidence in their vote. However they vote.
If they if they feel that their involvement with their particular nonprofit would cloud their ability to be impartial in making a decision, then yes, they could recuse themselves from voting.
Councilmember.
I just want to clarify my position or role. Specifically, this is an action fiduciary cash for the city, and I do not want to have any appearance of, this is a financial matter of the city, and I don't want to be perceived as in any way having influenced that. Thanks.
Understood.
Thanks for that explanation.
Thank you.
All right, so not seeing any more hands, I'll go ahead and, go ahead, Councilmember Follier.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor. Annie, I'm having a hard time with your motion just because of the ratio on the family promise of Spokane. I have no issues with any of the others, but.
Go ahead, Councilmember Follier, I will suggest, I know this is not the norm, but we do have someone in the audience from Family Promise. Sean, would it be okay if I call on him to answer the question if he feels comfortable doing that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Point of order. Is that fair? Is that fair to single out somebody to give the opportunity to speak?
I just wanted to clarify the percentage question.
Mike, she's just asking from the standpoint of answering a question from a council member with regard to what Phil has to answer. So if they can answer the question, great. If not, then there wasn't any further elaboration.
That's good. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Craig Howard, sorry to put you on the spot. Could you, or would you be able to answer the question from Councilmember Follier with regards to the percentage of services for Liberty Lake? It looks like we had a percentage of 25%, but I think Councilmember Follier said he looked at the website and Councilmember Follier, what did you say, 89% Spokane?
Spokane County, 89%.
We're only part of Spokane County. So Craig, sorry to put you on the spot.
But don't get me wrong, I wasn't digging for it. It was right there on the homepage.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I talked to Kyle Dixon a week and a half or so ago, and when I submitted our application, I indicated that there was never a 25% ratio indicated. I told Kyle that there were at least 2 landlords in Liberty Lake that benefited through our rental assistance program and at least 1 family. So our main point is that we are the only nonprofit in the region focused exclusively on eradicating family homelessness. And there were almost 400 families, or 400 students, sorry, in the Central Valley School District last year who were without a permanent home. And with Liberty Lake being in the Central Valley School District, we felt that as a regional nonprofit, we have a right to ask for some of this funding support. That 25% was not submitted by us. I had told Kyle that if we were to receive somewhere in the vicinity of 10,000, it would be much appreciated and well used, considering that our annual fundraiser last year was canceled due to COVID, and that pulls in between $80,000 to $90,000 a year. So the 25% did not come from us, and we are a regional nonprofit, but do serve the Liberty Lake community.
Thank you, Craig.
And so, yeah, so to clarify, I could speak to what Craig said. And so without the hard data, inferring that, they do work with the Central Valley School District, they have some landlords in that was a judgment call on my part that I think we can defend if and when we ever need to show auditors or anything of that nature.
So, Phil, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Or does that?
Thank you both very much. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So one more call for hands, or then I will call for the vote. All right. So the motion on the floor, and Councilmember Kurtz, if you can make sure I get this right. The motion is to fund all of the listed nonprofits at 100% of the adjusted Liberty Lake portion, with the exception of Selkirk Middle School, which would be funded at the same as Green Acres Middle School, and with Riverbend Elementary being adjusted to 25% Liberty Lake. Did I get that correct? Go ahead.
Yes, you got it correct, but I realized when I made the motion that would actually reduce the amount that Selkirk would get. So if I can amend my motion to strike my comment about Selkirk, I would like to do that.
Sean, we need a second on the amendment.
Who seconded the motion?
It was Councilmember Stevens.
Hugh, do you have any
And I agree.
objection to the amendment?
I do not.
Do you concur with her rescission?
I concur with her rescission.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor.
Okay, all right, so I will rephrase. So all in favor of funding all of the listed nonprofits at 100% of the Liberty Lake portion, with the exception of Riverbend Elementary, which would be at 25%, please say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Okay, let me do this by hand. So I'm going to go back to the ayes. Can you please raise your hand? Make sure I get it. I have 1, 2. I have Annie, Hugh, Bill. Okay, and then those opposed. Please, opposed. Councilmember Langford and Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, we have 2 abstained. So we have ayes have it with 3 yeses, and nays have 2. So we have approved our nonprofits, our first round. Thank you for the good discussion, you guys.
Excellent.
All right. All right, so next, and I am trying to keep a careful eye on the clock. It is 9:08, and we still have two workshops to go through. I know the Code of Ethics is on. We have Code of Ethics left, for the social media policy still left, and we have the ordinance cleanup. I don't think that will take very long. Kelsey will be able to go through that pretty quickly. Councilmember Kurtz.
Madam Mayor, I'm the one that had asked for the Code of Ethics to be on the agenda, and I do still want to have a workshop on it, but I am cognizant of the time And I'm cognizant of the discussion that I would like to have around the code of ethics. Is there another workshop available soon to really have a little bit longer discussion on that?
So we will add that to our list of the things that we're gonna, when we're looking at future meetings here at the end of this meeting, we'll put that on there. So I just made a note. So I think if you could make a motion to move that to a future workshop, we'll need a second and a vote since it's an agenda change.
Madam Mayor, I move to move the code of ethics workshop to the next meeting.
Second.
Second.
Okay, moved, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor of moving code of ethics social media policy to the next meeting, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we are moved. Thank you for that, Councilmember Kurtz. All right, we'll move on to ordinance cleanup. Kelsey has done an amazing job digging into these. I think they were some of the first, well, we know by the numbers, they were some of the first ordinances that were put in place for the city. There are RCWs attached to some of these, so Kelsey's going to go ahead and kind of lead this, the beginning of this with a summary of what she's found and what we think we're looking at going forward, with the intention of, if there are no major questions, with the intention of bringing back the first read ordinances at the next meeting. It's all yours, Kelsey.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I will try to stay out of the weeds, so I'll give you a high level of the direction I started with, what I found as I started working on these, and then kind of the current state of some drafts that I have prepared. I'm hoping to get your input on moving forward with those. So first one I would like to discuss is the ordinance number 33, which establishes the position, or joint office, I should say, of city clerk and treasurer. On the initial workshop on the 21st, my indication was that City Council wanted to repeal this as we don't have the joint office. After looking into the RCWs, it is required by statute that the city appoint the office of city clerk by ordinance. So it is one that we would be required to keep, but I would like to update it to reflect the fact that we no longer have the joint office, and just establish it as city clerk. Also, as we had discussed on the 21st, we can remove the requirement for mayor appointment and council confirmation, so that it would just be by appointment of the mayor. And I believe that summarizes the changes.
I think that the last part, Kelsey, was to remove for it just to be appointment by the mayor and not council confirmation, since we're taking the treasurer part out of that.
Correct, yes. Are there any questions or comments on that?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, good. So I will bring an ordinance forward at the next meeting for that one. Secondly, council had indicated that we would like to combine the created offices in one ordinance for police chief and city administrator, as well as all directors for the purpose of having all of those positions be appointment by the mayor and confirmation for council. And so I have started drafting that up. And in doing so, I'm trying to streamline it to remove some of the lengthy duties of each, and leaving the caveat that qualifications and duties will be approved by council via resolution. The only duties that I do want to explicitly describe in there is that of the police chief, because the statute does require, similar to the city clerk, that is one that's required to be established by ordinance. So I plan on leaving the duties in there for police chief, but simplifying the other positions. I think I said already, include that it's mayor confirmation and council, or excuse me, mayor appointment and council confirmation. And then I would also like to add the oath of office into this combined ordinance as discussed, but I did want some guidance on which positions we want that to be done for. I think it's my understanding that we currently do that for the police chief, as well as elected officials. In practice, I don't think that we have done or currently do that for the city administrator and the directors. So I'd like some guidance on which which positions we want to require that oath of office for.
Councilmember Langford.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Kelsey, is there any particular reason that the council should not confirm the city clerk since it's established by an ordinance?
Any reason that we should not? I think it's up to the mayor and council to decide. That's what I had gathered from the previous discussion, that that's the direction we wanted to go. I think we have the ability to keep the confirmation based on council's guidance.
Did you want to expand on that at all, Councilmember Langford?
No, I just believe that the council should have confirmation due to the fact that it's required by law.
Got it. So we have Councilmember Severs and then Mayor Pro Tem. So this part of the discussion is back on confirmation of city clerk. Go ahead, Councilmember Severs.
Thank you, Councilmember Langford, for clarifying that is required by law. That helps me for sure. But regarding Kelsey, do you mind helping me out with the second part of what you were reading?
I'm sorry, the second part of.
So just real quick, Councilmember Severs, it sounds like we're, based on Councilmember Langford's comment, I didn't know if you had a comment on.
Not what he was commenting on, but the director level and confirming them under oath.
Yes, so we have the ordinance requiring the bond and oath of office. In our previous workshop, it was discussed to remove the requirement for bond, but include the oath of office in this combined ordinance for those positions. And so I'd like guidance on which positions out of department directors, city administrator, and the police chief do we want to require that oath of office.
Thank you. So personally, I think that if you're at a director level position, you should be required to take the oath of office.
Does anybody have any objection to that? Not seeing any. Let's leave the oath of office in for the police chief, city administrator, and all directors.
Okay.
And so I would like to go back to, Mayor Pro Tem, let me get back to you before I was going to go back to Councilmember Langford's question on the clerk confirmation. Unless there's any objection, that we can just go ahead and put the confirmation back in for the clerk. Is there any objection to that? All right. So Kelsey, on 33, where it was, or whatever the number is going to be going forward, if you can put council confirmation on for the clerk, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you. And so were there any more after that, Kelsey, or is that, did we boil it down to just two?
That's it. Yeah, that's it for tonight. I will periodically bring a few back for review and cleanup though, as an ongoing process.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I believe moving forward, one of the absolute critical things for me is that absolute clarity of what the council is confirming. Now, one comment was made as directors. Can you supply a list to us? Is that who is considered directors? What positions?
So we have Director of Finance Director, we have Director of Planning, Engineering, Building Services, we have Library Director, and we have Planning, Operations and Maintenance Director. That would be Lisa, Jen, Kyle, and Jandy currently.
Okay, also, I believe what we need is, of course, we now have presently confirmation in all commissioners.
Yeah, those are in their respective ordinances.
Is in there. And the reason why I feel this is so critical is that this is two-part. When RCWs are put together, the idea is that no single power is given to any one individual. No single power is given to anybody to make spending money. That's why it takes a collective effort. And I also believe that no single power should be given, at least at these director levels, and I think we're pretty much on the same page here, without confirmation from the council. For the simple reason is that as elected officials, all of us get elected, not necessarily on our qualifications, but our popularity. And then what happens, we're studying in a position that for some of us have never been before. And the idea is that collectively, if we all come together and look at these items, we're able to make logical decisions and work off of each other's experience as we can move forward. So I think that's absolutely critical. The other thing that's critical, and I think this is beyond critical, if the council is going to have confirmation on something, we have to be able to see the exact information that the mayor has. And nothing is blacked out or whited out. If there's an application that's out there and there's 20 individuals, I don't expect to see all 20. But if it's narrowed down to 5, and one of those is going to be chosen, I want to see all 5. I want to see what I'm voting on. We've had situations in the past where it's given to the council to confirm someone that we've got nothing. Nothing. And quite honestly, I feel that we as a council, including myself, if we don't insist on due diligence, what we're telling the citizens is this: it's not important what our vote is, because we don't need to know any information about these key individuals. We'll just rubber stamp it and move on. If that's the case, are we really doing justice to the people who put us in this position? And keep in mind that for all of us who are put in this position, first of all, we're still citizens. So I think we have to be accountable, not only to the citizens, but we have to be accountable to ourselves. So therefore, as we move forward on this, I want to push very hard that we define all of these individuals. If it's somebody who's hired under somebody else, I don't have a challenge with that. But if it's a key individual, because in the way the RCWs are written, the mayor, whoever is mayor, can appoint somebody, but the council can say, no, we're not going to go along with that individual. And we have that power because it has happened already in the city. But the mayor at that point has the power to override the council's decision. But it only takes the council to have 5 individuals to override that. So that if you think about the RCWs, it's really set up as a protection for the citizens, but it's also set up as a protection for the mayor. That puts the mayor in a position to where has the ability to work with the council and vice versa, to where we're a team and we can move forward that way. To me, I certainly don't look at a weakness from whoever is mayor that they want to do this all on their own. I think it's a good leadership to go to individuals and ask their advice, and that's where the council comes in. So in moving forward, 1, I think we have to have confirmation on all these individuals, and 2, we have to have the exact same information that whoever is the mayor has to make a decision. If I don't have that same information, I'm going to start abstaining, which might make some people happy, because I don't have sufficient information to say to the citizens that I've got the proper information to make a decision. So I'm hoping as we move forward that we can correct that and start working together as a team, and not the division that we've suffered in this town, I think, for a long, long time. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevens. You're on mute.
Sorry, I'll just say, Mayor Pro Tem, I agree with you completely. The council needs the information in order to make a decision. But I'll also say that I think in general, the council has received the information from staff about appointments. And I'll give an example that recently our newest city engineer, there were some comments made at our last council meeting that we didn't know his resume, we know his background. Yeah, we did. It was emailed to us prior to the meeting, and it's on us to read that and know what or who he was before we were charged to make a decision. So, and I don't mean to counter Mayor Pro Tem. Our Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Kennedy, is probably one of the most informed council members that we have, period. He is at everything. He knows what's going on more than probably any other council member that we have. So this is not a comment against what he's saying. he probably is the most informed member of the council, but I'll say that it is on the council to read emails, make sure we are up to date based on what staff gives us. And I think a lot of times in the past, the council has said we were not informed. In reality, we were informed. We just didn't quite get to that email. And let's be clear, we're part-time employees of the city. So I just want to be clear that we need the information, but in most cases we've gotten the information. We just need time to read and digest the information in order to make good, informed decisions. And this is not counter to what Councilmember Kennedy is saying. This is implying that sometimes we need a little bit of time to read the information, interpret the information, and in order to make a decision. So I'll just say thank you to staff for giving us the information. Sometimes we need a little bit more time. So that's why I'm going to put it, and thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Langford.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in general response, I am the councilman that wanted to hear from the engineer. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. I had the opportunity to do a whole lot of hiring in my life. And I guess my question is to the mayor. It's kind of a self-answering question, is that we get applications from all kinds of people. And if we want to make a decision based on a resume, that's only a part. The real essence comes from the interview that you have with the individual. So I'm sure that the mayor reviewed the resumes and then held interviews. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that the council does not have to go on just resumes, that they too have the opportunity to ask questions. Because again, we want to make informed decisions, not just read about something on somebody.
You're got on mute.
I'm sorry?
I can hear you. Continue.
I can hear you, Odin.
No, still can't hear you.
There appears to be a defect with the audio in the conference room.
Todd, is there something you can do to help unmute Odin?
You just got to hit his unmute button.
There you go. Try it again, Odin. Nope.
That way?
Try it again.
Let me see if I can shorten it up.
No.
Odin, I don't think there's any defect with your connection.
Well,
okay.
Are you gonna give me the thumbs up if you want us to come back to you? I love the point you were making.
Very simply put, that
You
I
good?
believe that the council
Can't hear
has
you.
the,
All right, we'll go, sorry, Councilmember Langford, we're going to, was there anybody else who wanted to make a comment? I think, Kelsey's, got what she needs on those ordinances.
Thank you.
We can hear. I can hear.
Oh, you can hear Odin?
Yeah.
Oh, we just couldn't hear him there.
My computer. No, it's.
Madam Mayor, we can hear Odin.
Oh, we couldn't hear
There
him.
we are.
Sorry, we couldn't hear him
It
here.
was me who couldn't hear
Okay.
you guys. Can you hear us? Dan? Can you hear us? Okay, great, sorry. Okay, so I assume everybody else heard Councilmember Langford, I didn't. So sorry about that. We'll come up with some better sign language while we work with our provider on not turning our conference calls off.
Because we didn't hear, because we didn't. Or is it my benefit?
Councilmember Langford should be offered the time to continue.
Well, I was actually just gonna add, Mayor Pro Tem made a point, since we weren't able to hear part of what you said, Councilmember Langford, could you repeat? And you had finished talking about, doing the interviews, telling so much.
Yes, ma'am. Just to sum it up, that the resumes are only a portion of what you base a hire on, and that there's nothing preventing the council from asking candidates questions to get a better feel for what they have to offer besides what's written in the resume. And thank you for the time and the consideration.
Thank you. I apologize for the technical difficulty. All right, if nobody else has any comments for Kelsey on her ordinance cleanup, we will go ahead and move to general business. We're 9:30, let's see what we can do. Mayor Pro Tem,
I'm sorry.
general business?
Did we lose the sound again?
No, you may have.
Very good, yeah. Thank you, Madam. Yeah, we wish, under general business consent agenda, a motion to approve the October 5th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Item 2, approve the October 19th, 2021 vouchers and September payroll benefits and quarterlies in the amount of $708,885.24.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Severs. Any discussion or questions? Not hearing any. All in favor of approving the consent agenda items 1 and 2, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. Action items.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Action item motion 1, motion to approve donated labor and materials to Orchard Park from CTC Electric.
Second.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Langford. Any discussion or questions? This is donated labor from, I believe it's Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it a resident who owns the company that's going to be doing this?
Going to be adding some electrical outlets and a little bit of electrical expansion for Winter Glow and for other events and activities at Orchard Park.
Any other questions? Not hearing any. All in favor of approving action item 1, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0.
Action item 2, motion to approve snowplow purchase from Titan Truck Equipment included in the fleet rotation program.
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Councilmember Severs. Any discussion or questions? All right, not hearing any or seeing any, but all in favor of approving action item B2, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item 3, motion to approve the purchase of an X-Mark Steris mower from Horizon Distributors included in the fleet rotation program.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Severs. Any questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. On action item 2 and 3, in the past, when we get these, like the tractor and things of the sort here, the Titan equipment, one of these, I think there was 9 pages in there, even to the point that it gives us the tire pressure and all this type of stuff, which I mentioned in the past. Is it by law or something that we have to have that in there?
No, we just share the specs out of consideration.
Thank you.
Would anybody be upset if they didn't get all that detailed information in the future?
I appreciate the detail.
Very good. Thank you for that. That was all the question I had.
Great. All right, all in favor of approving action item B3, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? All right, not hearing. The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Action item 4, motion to authorize the mayor to sign contract agreement with Polytech Northwest for concrete work and tripping hazard repair.
Second.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Langford. Any questions or discussion? Not hearing or seeing any. All in favor of approving action item B4, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 5, motion to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with R.J. Stevenson.
Second.
And second by Councilmember Severs. Any questions? If not, I do have a quick comment before we take a vote. I do want to
Just
just
a quick-
again say, oh, go ahead.
Quick question is,
Yes.
you mind just explaining this part?
Yeah, so as I alluded to earlier in the meeting, without going into detail, if Kyle wants to jump into it himself, I doubt he does. So Kyle was laid up for all of last week with the budget crunch coming. So we reached out to RJ for help in finishing putting the budget together. It was mostly done. And actually, I got a note from RJ earlier, just before the meeting, and his hours at this point are 26.5, so it's just under $2,000, but we are all very grateful for him answering our call and helping putting the final touches on the budget so we could stay on schedule. And Kyle, we are so glad you're back too, and glad you're feeling better. So that's what that is. It does have an end date of 12/31 on it, but this, I don't believe we're going to be needing his services anymore. Kyle, if you want to jump in.
Just a huge thanks for RJ and staff for stepping in when I was in the hospital last week. So thanks, everyone.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Follier.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Katie. Katie, could you jump in to give an explanation on the dollar amount? I'm sure some citizens may look at that and think, gee, what could justify that dollar amount?
So the dollar amount was derived from what RJ was paid with his benefits, what we call fully loaded. And so when he left the city and he has come back intermittently, we've just paid him what he was paid before.
Thank you for that explanation.
Councilmember Follier.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, nothing? Okay, Councilmember Langford.
Yes, Mayor. Can you expound a little on why we need to extend his contract through December with Kyle being back?
No, we just, when this was put together, we didn't know what the full impact of Kyle's situation, so we didn't want to have to re-up it. So it was basically not to go past December 31st, and there's some clauses in there about ending it early, so that's all covered.
So is there any intent to end early?
I don't, Kyle.
Mayor, I'd like to add, RJ is an expert. The county looks to him as an expert with TIF and lift reporting requirements and allocations. We are in the home stretch of closing out this year, and Kyle, you can jump in, but it's very specialty work. And the only, I think, services that we need from RJ between now and the end of the year would be doing the reporting for the lift revenues.
Not more than a handful of hours would be my guess. Does that sound right, Kyle?
Yeah, it'd be minimal hours, and just to reiterate what Katie said, that yeah, he has a very specialized skill set that is really hard to find elsewhere as I kind of navigate my first year with TIF and lift.
So I'm guessing then, Katie, that there was going to be this hire anyway, whether Kyle was sick or not, because of the specialized work.
We had RJ helping in a transition for a while. How do I say this?
So Katie, there was no plan to engage him on a contract for TIF and lift, I think is what Councilmember Langford is asking.
Correct.
Mayor, excuse me, Mayor. Just for the council's clarification, if RJ wasn't to do anything the rest of the year, he would not be compensated. He's only compensated to the extent that he actually performed some type of work. The agreement can be terminated by the parties if they wanted to end it tomorrow theoretically, or if not, the city could just give 10 days notice. And if RJ did no work within that 10-day period, there would be no compensation.
Councilmember Fuller.
Okay. So thank you, Mayor. So I guess, okay, who's the point of contact going to be for budget discussions then?
Myself and the mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All of those in favor of approving action item B5, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed?
I hear one. Was there anybody else opposed? I got you, Councilor Langford. All right, sounds like motion passes 6-1. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Action item number 6, which was added at the front of the agenda. Motion to approve the contract Executech. I can't read my own writing. IT related security service.
So thank you. Moved and seconded, sorry. Seconded by Councilmember Severs. Any questions? We do have Mark from Executech joining us. If there are any questions for him, the managed services contract agreement, if you took a look at it, that's very close, is a month-to-month agreement. The advanced threat detection and protection is 12 months. Does anybody have any questions you want to pose to Mark? All right, not hearing any. Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Fuller.
Thank you, Mayor. This question is for you, actually.
Okay.
In the summary, it calls out a dollar amount for the year, and it says that it was budgeted. Did we budget for that dollar amount last year, or is that a new item this coming year?
For 2022. I should have made that more clear in my email. Thanks for asking.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right, if nobody has any, oh, go ahead, Councilmember Fuller.
All right, so just to clarify then, so that's why it made a comment about only till the end of the year, and then it'll be a new contract after that?
No, so there's two pieces of this. The one is the managed services, which is the higher monthly amount. That's a month-to-month contract. And the other piece, which is, I think it's $850 or $895 a month, is a 12-month contract. All tied, but this is all professional services tied to the agreement with Executech.
So do we need to do any sort of an amendment to this year's budget for that?
Not that I believe in my previous conversations with Kyle that there was somewhere in the budget where we could pull this from already.
So for budget discussions, it'll be fiscal year 22.
Correct.
For this service.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Any other questions? All right. All in favor of approving action item B6, please say aye.
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 And thank you. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0, and I do thank the council for acting on this. It will go a long way toward needed improvements with our network security. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
I apologize. I'd like to ask a question if I can. I meant to ask this earlier. I hope I'm not out of line, but talking about Mr. Stevenson and the contracts jogged my memory. When our vacancy came up with the engineer, we, I believe, signed a contract with, I believe, Executech or an engineering firm to pick up the slack during that period of time.
Okay, so are you talking engineering or are you talking
Engineering.
IT?
Engineering.
Okay, Executech is IT.
Okay, so it wasn't Executech.
No.
So whatever company it was, I understand.
Parametrics.
Parametrics, I'm sorry, thank you. For Parametrics, we employed them to pick up the slack because we were without an engineer. Now we have an engineer coming on board. So my question is, are we to the point we will be eliminating that contract?
I doubt it, but I'll turn to Lisa for that.
So Parametrics is our on-call engineer. We use them for a variety of task orders. And we will continue to use them. We added a task order to help us supplement the engineering review for development. We will keep that task order open. We'll only use it as we need to. But we have seen so much development this year that between what we're doing on the capital side of the house and what we're doing with development reviews, there are times when we're going to need to call on them to do that. To keep up with the pace of the work and to turn around development proposals quickly.
Follow-up question. Thanks, Lisa. Follow-up question. I certainly understand that, and I certainly would be supportive of that. What sticks in my mind is that we did that with them because of our engineer leaving. If our engineer had not left, would we have still made that move and hired them?
We actually were doing it. Before the engineer left because of the volume of work.
Thank you.
Lisa, I'd like to add, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry, Mayor, can I add something?
Sure.
So even though we've had engineers with Andrew and Scott and most recently Ben, we've always had on-call engineering services. And what it does, it allows us to respond to specialty questions. We only need them we only use them on an as-needed basis, but not, whether it's a special inspection or putting plans and specs together, there's a whole gamut of specialty services that they provide. But we've always had on-call engineering services.
I realize that. Thank you. Thank you for that explanation.
Councilmember Kurt.
My question for Lisa is just if, I know that the building, your department's really busy. And have you, in the budget, are we going to expect to see an increase in engineering just generally with staff? Just because I think you guys are so busy right now. Is that something you guys have looked at in the budget?
What we requested in the budget was to fill the position of planner. This year, we've added on a project manager to provide some relief to the city engineer. We've also added contracts for building plan reviews to deal with the workflow from time to time. We haven't had to use it yet, but we need that for backup just because we do not control how development proposals come into us.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you guys have what you need for the next budget cycle. And I'm happy to support that because I know you guys are really busy and whatever you need, I hope that's in the budget.
Thank you.
Yep, already in the plan. All right, guys, we got off a little bit on the agenda here. So we are through with action items. We have no public hearings or appeals, so we do have a resolution. Kelsey, resolution 02-47G.
We have a resolution of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, amending the adopted personnel policy for all employees of the City of Liberty Lake.
Thank you. And I know Heidi is on. If maybe turn it over to her first and then take any questions.
It's all complete. I thank everyone for their patience, their edits, and their understanding. And I ask that if you don't have any questions to approve the resolution.
Yeah, this is comes before us a little bit earlier for review. Heidi, thank you for your work. I still remember asking you for red lines and basically, we pretty much had to throw the old one in the trash because it was so outdated. And you've done an amazing job putting this together, getting us compliant, especially with us crossing the 50 full-time employee mark. I know that made a lot of things change. So I'm looking forward to getting a motion on this, Mayor Pro Tem, in a second, and we'll take a vote.
Very good, thank you, Mayor. Also, there was an amendment to this. I will read that into the record. A motion for resolution number 02-47G. And the amendment to the motion would be a motion to amend the manual on page 13, section 3.4, first paragraph to capitalize immediate family and add the word home after council members.
Do we have a second on, thank you. We have a motion and a second on the resolution 0247G, including the two small editing changes. Any more further discussion from the council? Not hearing, oh, go ahead. Councilmember Foyer.
Yes, can you rewind on the section you referred to? Sorry.
Did you say, you said page 13, 3.4?
Yes, page 13, section 3.4.
Is a capitalization and replacement of a missing word, it sounds like.
Yeah, so it's paragraph to capitalize in parentheses immediate family and to add the word in parentheses home after council members.
You good? Councilmember Foyer? Okay, thanks. All right, any other questions? Councilmember Dunn?
Yeah, for clarity, can we see that visually presented on the screen? I'm really trying to follow the nature of this motion.
Heidi, do you know?
Yeah, yes, it's specifically related to nepotism, and nepotism is immediate family. So I don't know how to make it show on the screen. However, Councilmember Dunn, if you're okay with me, reading that that paragraph just for clarity, it states that the immediate family or such family members identified in section 1.4 that live outside of current city employees, mayor, or city council members' home are not able to be employed by the city where, and then it lists 3 additional items. So it was capitalizing immediate family and adding home to the residents.
Mayor, can I interject?
Absolutely.
Dan, what happened is I suggested some language with regard to that first paragraph, and it was just mistakenly omitted. Immediate family is a defined term in section 1.4 and capitalized. So if you go through the whole document, you'll see that immediate family is capitalized to make sure that it references the definition in 1.4. So I just asked that it be capitalized, which is all that's happening in 3.4. And then the word home is being inserted relative to city employees, mayor, and city council members, because there was a gap if you had someone relative to living under the immediate family definition, or if you were a relative of, let's say, the city council member, but you lived outside the home, you would not be able to have qualified for those criteria. So the word home makes sure that you are able to capture everybody both living in one of those identified people's home or outside the home relative to conflict, supervision, or other issues in item 3. So it was just something that was missed when I had suggested some language for Heidi to insert.
It sounds like we're making an inference about a residence. I just want to clarify the utility of the word home and its inference to residence.
Correct. That's correct. If you recall the council meeting we had earlier this year when we were trying to change what residence was, what home was, when you look at the definition of immediate family in 1.4, it addresses the employee's same home. So that's what we're making reference to, so we're consistent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further questions or comments, all in favor of approving resolution 02-47G, please raise your hand. Oh wait, I apologize. I know we are trying going forward to see if there's citizen comments on resolutions as well as ordinances. It's not our rules yet, but I will go ahead in spirit of that upcoming change. Are there any citizen comments with regards to the personnel manual? If so, just send Todd Henderson, our meeting manager, a chat. Doesn't sound like we have any. Okay, all right, so I apologize, we'll go back. All in favor of approving resolution 02-47G, please raise your hand. Okay, I see 7 out of 7. Thank you very much. Resolution passes, and we have a new personnel manual. Thanks, everybody, and thanks again, Heidi, for all your hard work on this. Next, we have no ordinances, no emergency ordinances. Introduction of upcoming agenda items. I know we have a few notes on things we want to add, and we are down to 6 minutes and counting.
Mayor, I'll go really fast on those. So we have a workshop at 6 p.m. on the budget. We have a workshop that we're adding on social media at the 7 p.m. meeting. Also, Waste Management is making their annual donation of $3,000. And so Jen will be covering the nonprofits that we've used in the past for the council to confirm. Also, Legacy Ridge West, second edition is tentative. Legacy Ridge traffic signal at Country Vista. We hope to award a contract after we open bids this week. And then finally, a public hearing on the 2022 revenue sources.
Katie, we also had council rules to be added for the 11-4 7 o'clock workshop section. And Mayor Pro Tem, you've got a question?
Yes, also, I believe we were to put on there the ordinance on the workshop for 7, 33, 33, and 35, with the idea we'd also have first read ordinance later on in the meeting. Are we going to be able to accomplish that?
Yeah, that's the plan. I was more concerned, I want to make sure we just get the workshops in, and then we also had the request to move, all my notes here. So we've got social media moving, and we had the request, we need to come up with a date for the unfunded items on the capital facilities plan. Go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
Madam Mayor, I don't remember, I think it's the next meeting too, we're gonna have the workshop. Was it a workshop or just a discussion on the contracts for the restaurateurs?
Yeah, we have a whole bunch more notes. I think we're more looking at the major topics, but thank you for pointing that out. And we have our directors meeting tomorrow morning as well, so if there's any questions that come out of that with regards to future meetings, I'll let you guys know. All right. So we are back to citizen comments. If there's anybody who would like to take advantage of the second citizen comment period, please send Todd Henderson a note in chat. You'll have 3 minutes. Tim Olson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, City Council. This is Tim Olson, I'm a resident of the River District. I just need to bring up technology again. Why is it so difficult to get technology issues cleaned up? It's very disruptive for us listening from home. We've been on the call for now almost 4 hours. COVID is no longer an excuse. I value all the members of the council. We need to hear their comments. They are elected officials. We need to be heard. This is really unacceptable. We got great information on a snowplow. We got great information on the mower, but can Executech figure it out? I'm just wondering what's going to take to get this figured out and what we can do in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. We are addressing it with our internet, with our service provider for that. Thanks for your comment. Anybody else? All right, not seeing any more requests for citizen comments. Is there, we have no executive session tonight. Anything further from the council? If there's not, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second, anybody?
Third.
Okay. Got a second and a third somewhere in there. Councilmember Langford, thanks everybody. We will be back 2 weeks from Thursday. Thanks everyone.